Drinking black tea calmly at Hogwarts. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 101. Harry has the right to know. Hogsmeade, where Christmas is approaching, looks like a Christmas card. The huts and shops are covered with a layer of crunchy snow, and there are holly wreaths on the doors of each house. Enchanted candles hung in clusters on the tree. The students walking on the snowy streets of Hogsmeade put on thick cloaks, scarves and hats. Only a classmate surnamed Zhang walked around the street in a long robe, relying on the heating function of his robe. In Honeydukes, Zhang Su once again asked the boss to come to the product catalog to scan the goods. He chose a piece of each candy, and then entrusted the boss to pack these candies and send them to Gabriel at Christmas. As for the unusual flavored candies like the bloody lollipop, can Gabriel share it with her classmates? After shopping around in the shops on both sides of the street, Zhang Su decided to drink something at the Three Broomsticks to warm up his body. In front of the Three Broomsticks bar, Zhang Su met a group of acquaintances. A dignified man in a lime green bowler hat and a thin striped cloak was talking to Hagrid, flanked by Professor McGonagall and Flitwick. "Hello, Mr. Minister. Nice to meet you, Mr. Zhang." After Professor McGonagall introduced the two, Zhang Su and Fudge shook hands and said hello. The entrance of the bar where the snow was falling was obviously not a place for chatting, so everyone walked into the bar together and found a table and sat down. "A small glass of canyon water mine," said Professor McGonagall. "4 pints of mead thanks, Rosmerta," said Hagrid. "A sherry soda with ice and conch yes," said Professor Flitwick, smacking his lips. 82 Sprite thank you, Ms. Rosmerta." Zhang Su thanked the charming proprietress in front of him. "Then yours is red currant rum, Minister." "Thank you, Rosmerta, dear," said Fudge. "I must say, it's good to see you again. You'll have a drink, too, so you can sit with us." "Okay. Thank you, Minister." Rosmerta found a chair and sat beside Fudge. Zhang Su was listening to Rosmerta complaining to Fudge about the Dementors affecting his bar business, and remembered a famous aria in a model play. "Smile when you meet, don't think about it afterwards." Perhaps this ability to meet and laugh is a must-have skill for owners of bars and tea houses. "Rosmerta, my dear, I don't like them as much as you do," said Fudge uneasily. "Necessary precaution. But you're right, I just met a few. They are very important to Dumbledore. Very annoyed, he wouldn't let them into the castle grounds." "I don't think they should be allowed in," said Professor McGonagall sharply. "How can we teach with these horrible things floating around?" Yes, shrieked the diminutive Professor Flitwick. "Mr. Minister," Zhang Su thought for a while, said to Fudge, "why don't you arrange for me to talk to the Dementors today? Maybe I can make them give up their plan to go into the castle." Everyone around the wine table looked at Zhang Su in surprise, not knowing what to say for a while. Zhang, Dementors are difficult to deal with," Fudge said. "They are very stubborn and will not listen to anyone's persuasion. Let's try it first, maybe my method will be successful," Zhang Su said with a smile. Several professors at Hogwarts were silent after hearing Zhang Su's words. They had a kind of enigmatic trust in Zhang Su, a student who often opened his mind and had a hula hoop on his neck, because he can do things that other wizards can't think of, and he can get things done every time. On this point, even Hagrid, who had been at odds with Zhang Su, had to admit it. Rosmerta stared curiously at the student who had often heard about his miraculous deeds from other students recently, as if he wanted to see through him. Fudge thought for a while, then nodded and agreed to the matter. The topic on the wine table turned back to Black, who escaped from prison. "I think Harry should come over and listen to this matter." Zhang Su once again left the table speechless. "This is not good for Potter," Professor McGonagall said to Zhang Su. "It's up to Harry to decide whether it's good or not, Professor McGonagall." Zhang Su said to Professor McGonagall, "Harry is not a child being cared for in a greenhouse. He has his own thoughts and judgments. In Black, in this matter, I think Harry also has the right to know. And Harry already knows a lot about Black from Professor Scarlet and Professor Lupin. Harry is now at the age of rebellion. If we don't tell him, when he knows these things from other places, he will think that we are hiding him for some purpose, then he will act without us. We should not ignore him as a Gryphon. If he uses his courage to seek revenge on Black, I am afraid things will get worse. Harry has many friends around now. If he knows everything, Then he will discuss with everyone. If Harry has any risky thoughts, everyone will dispel him. If he really needs to take action, then everyone will help him, which is many times better than him going to black alone. Zhang Su looked at Professor McGonagall without giving in. Professor McGonagall was obviously intimidated by Zhang Su's assumption that Harry went to fight black alone, and finally nodded. Seeing Professor McGonagall nodding, Zhang Su turned around and said to the Christmas tree behind him, "So, Harry, come and listen." Under the surprised eyes of Professor McGonagall and others, Harry came out from behind the Christmas tree. Looking at Harry's determined eyes, Professor McGonagall said to him, "You must promise me one thing first, Potter. No matter what the circumstances, you can't go to black by yourself." "I promise you, Professor McGonagall," said Harry. "Zhang, I don't see at all that you are at the same rebellious age as Harry," Flitwick said. "A lot of times I think you are more like an adult." "I think my behavior just now is already rebellious enough, Professor Flitwick," Zhang Su said with a smile. "No one in the Ministry of Magic would dare to speak to you in the tone I just did, Mr. Minister." Fudge, who was pulled into the water, could only he. After this interruption, the tense atmosphere between Zhang Su and Professor McGonagall has dissipated. Chapter 102. So many years of reading today, and number 039's statement is not for nothing. The wine table soon fell into memories of the past. Harry sat quietly aside, drinking butterbeer, while listening to Professor McGonagall telling stories about his father and his friends back then. Harry's hand shaking from the strain on his beer glass when he talked about his godfather being his parents' secret keeper. When everyone finished telling the past, Harry's whole body was shaking scarlet, and Lupin didn't know and didn't tell him the details of many things, so it was the first time for him to know. After a while, Zhang Su once again entered the mode of not surprising and endlessly talking. "Can I ask a few questions from the perspective of a bystander, Mr. Minister?" Zhang Su said. Fuji glanced at Zhang Su and nodded. "How many remains of Pettigrew Peter were recovered?" Zhang Su asked. Fudge said with a sad expression on his face, "There's only a little bit. The largest and most complete remains is a finger." Fuji gestured with his hands while talking. The weight seemed to be less than the meat buns in Zhang Su's school cafeteria in his previous life. Did the magic used by Black have the effect of burning or corroding? Zhang Su then asked. Fudge thought for a while, then shook his head and said, "No. It was just an explosion spell, which shiv and broke the sewer pipes under the street." "Zhang, what do you want to ask?" Professor McGonagall asked, frowning. Zhang Su looked around, and then used his magic wand to conjure up a transparent cover to cover their table. Immediately, the sound in the bar in between the wine tables was isolated by the cover. "Let me talk about one of my guesses," Zhang Su said. "You know, the hardest bones in the human body are the teeth, other than that are the bones of the limbs, and then the bones of the fingers. The skull is also very hard. If Black's magic just blew up Peter Pettigrew's body, since the finger can be preserved, there is no reason why the rest of his bones should not be found." After Zhang Su finished speaking, everyone around the wine table became deep in thought. "So what do you mean?" Fudge asked a little uneasy. "I guess, Peter Pettigrew was probably seriously injured at the time, but he didn't die. Later, he escaped and hid in the chaos." Zhang Su said, "Blake was captured by the Ministry of Magic because of him. It is possible that she has been hiding somewhere because she is afraid of being retaliated by the Death Eaters." Everyone at the wine table was startled by Zhang Su's guess. But thinking about it carefully, Zhang Su's guess is also reasonable, otherwise it would be impossible to explain why there is only such a small amount of Peter Pettigrew's remains. As long as he uses magic such as the flying curse, even his remains can be collected even if they are broken into dumpling fillings. To explain this situation, either the spell used by Black was so vicious that most of Pettigrew's remains were wiped out, or it was as small as Zhang Su guessed, and Pettigrew Peter was still alive. Although the chances of the latter conjecture becoming true are slim. What if some people had similar thoughts back then, but at that time Voldemort had just fallen and there were too many things to do, so they didn't think about it further. When everything was calm, Peter Pettigrew did not appear, so everyone subconsciously believed that he was killed. Looking back now and thinking about it calmly, many details that were not noticed back then have re-entered everyone's field of vision. Thinking that the speculation that Peter Pettigrew might still be alive might really come true, everyone at the wine table became excited. "Of course, this is just my own guess." Zhang Su and others calmed down and said, "This guess is reasonable. Peter is probably still alive. Professor McGonagall said excitedly. I think so too. Peter is probably living in seclusion somewhere, maybe even living in seclusion in the Muggle world, living like a Muggle. Professor Flitwick said. The IQs of Hogwarts professors are all very high. Often after Zhang-Su opens a window for them, they can fly out of that window by themselves, without Zhang-Su's rhythm. Fudge on the side was also flushed with excitement. If he could find a hero who he thought had been sacrificed, then he would gain a very high reputation. Zhang-Su looked at the excited crowd and cooled them down. If you want to find Peter Pettigrew, then you must keep this matter a secret. Zhang-Su said, if the remnants of the Death Eaters find him before us, and then attack him. Everyone was shocked when they heard Zhang-Su's words. If something like this happened, it would be a huge tragedy. At this time, Fudge showed his courage as the Minister of Magic, and said seriously to everyone, you are forbidden to tell anyone about this matter. I will find the most reliable person to take charge of this matter. I will inform Ma Prime Minister of the Muggles, ask him to help find Peter before the Muggles. Everyone at the wine table nodded. And NBSP, after everyone left the bar, Zhang-Su and Fudge walked out of Hogsmeade together, and Fudge wanted to take Zhang-Su to negotiate with the Dementors. Mr. Zhang, I thank you on behalf of the Ministry of Magic. If I find Peter, I will apply for a Medal of Merlin for you. Fudge said to Zhang-Su. Mr. Minister, I want to ask you a question about magic. Zhang-Su continued after seeing Fudge nodding. When the Ministry of Magic interrogates a prisoner, how does it judge whether the prisoner's words are true or false? The prisoner has modified his memory, so will Veritaserum and Legilimency still work? Fudge laughed after hearing Zhang-Su's question. The Ministry of Magic has a way to deal with such a situation. The Wizengamot has a way to judge whether a person is telling the truth or a lie. Fudge said, this method has been kept by the chief magician of the Wizengamot. You know who has been trying to get it, trying to use it to tell if Death Eaters are trustworthy, but he hasn't been able to. Zhang-Su thinks about it too. He can think of this method of perjury in court. Why can't others think of it? It seems that the old horses and the others paid a lot of money in order to exonerate themselves. Then, Zhang-Su said again, Mr. Minister, have you heard of any conflicts between Black and Potter? Fudge frowned and said, never heard of it. Zhang-Su said, it's hard to explain why Black betrayed Potter. The thoughts of Black wizards cannot be described by common sense. Fudge said to Zhang-Su in the tone of an elder educating the younger generation, you are still young, and you have not come into contact with many Black wizards, and you don't know what kind of people they are. There are many reasons for their vicious thoughts that you can't imagine. I was in charge of arresting a Death Eater before. Because the book written by a Muggle author was not updated fast enough, he sent it to the Muggle author. A box of blades enchanted, and if that Muggle writer doesn't write 10,000 words a day, the blades will fly of themselves and hurt a Muggle writer. Zhang-Su thought for a while and then said, in fact, I still have a guess, but it's hard to say it in front of the professors and Harry in the bar. What is it? Fudge asked. Black and Potter have always thought that they are very smart, so would they want to play with a mysterious man? Zhang-Su said, at that time, everyone knew that Black was a good friend of Potter, and they all thought that Black must belong to the Potter family. The secret keeper. So Black and Potter secretly found another person to be the secret keeper, and Black went to attract the mysterious person's attention to protect the real secret keeper. Anyone who can become the Minister of Magic is not an idiot. At this moment, Fudge vaguely guessed what Zhang-Su was going to say next. And the real secret keeper is Peter Pettigrew. Zhang-Su said. Fudge stopped in his tracks, the expression on his face changing. Mr. Zhang, you mean that the Ministry of Magic made a mistake, made a huge joke, and awarded a Death Eater the Order of Merlin, first class? There was a hint of threat in Fudge's tone. No, Zhang-Su said with a serious face, the Ministry of Magic will not make mistakes, and neither will the Minister of Magic. Only the former Minister of Magic and other staff of the Ministry of Magic made mistakes. Fudge figured the whole thing out in an instant. If Blake is the murderer and Peter Pettigrew is gone, he has nothing to lose. If Blake is the murderer, he's got the reclusive Pettigrew back, which is a huge prestige bonus for him. If Blake is not the murderer, then no matter whether Peter Pettigrew is wiped out or brought back, as long as Blake is rehabilitated, then the blame will be thrown on the former minister, and he himself will be a godly blessing to solve the case. So as long as Black is caught, and still alive, there is room for the next step. No matter how this wave is operated, it will not be a loss, and Fudge even hopes that Black is really wronged. Fuji smiled and said to Zhang-Su, Don't tell anyone about this matter, I will investigate it myself. Zhang Su nodded. His promotion on this matter has basically come to an end, and the next step is to sit and watch the performances of all parties. He dare not assert that Black is really innocent. What if Black is really Voldemort's undercover agent in this world soon? Fudge took Zhang Su to the outskirts of Hogsmeade, found the leading Dementor, and asked Zhang Su to talk with the Dementor himself. After seeing Zhang Su and the leader of the Dementors muttering for a while, Fudge handed over a large package of things to the leader of the Dementors, and then the leader of the Dementors came over and said to Fudge that they would no longer ask to enter Hogwarts. On the return journey, Fudge with a curious face asked Zhang Su what he gave to the Dementor. Zhang Su shook his head and smiled without saying a word. The things he gave to the Dementors cannot be exposed. If it weren't for a group of seniors in China who are similar in age to Mr. Zhao, many of their relatives and friends were deeply poisoned by the East India Company and pushed the relevant departments to approve Zhang Su's plan out of revenge. Zhang Su would not be able to get these things. Food additives for Dementors. Anyway, for the Dementors, it is enough to make the prisoners in Azkaban happy, and they don't mind whether there are food additives in the prisoner's happy mood. Chapter 103 Vacation in Maoxian Country. Cut carrots, potatoes, etc. into strips, stir-fry them with butter, and cook them with sausages, tomatoes, and pickled cabbage in the soup, salmon, sea bass, red fish, etc. Boil them with potatoes, carrots, and spices. Fish soup sprinkled with fennel, lamb kebabs grilled over charcoal fire, chicken-flavored Kiev meatloaf with crispy skin and soft and delicious filling, pig, beef, and lamb are made with different ingredients, simmered and boiled until it melts in the mouth. Thick stew, caviar made from sturgeon roe, smoked sausage made by stuffing minced meat and various seasonings into casings, heat-treated or fermented, baked from flour, milk, eggs and butter. Bollinger made from a batter, black bread baked from a dough made of rye flour, water, and salt, fermented with yeast. Just by looking at this menu, one knows that Zhang Su has gone to Mao Shuang's place to spend this year's Christmas holiday. Leningrad, a name familiar to anyone familiar with the history of World War II. 1941981944127872. 2 years ago, the city's name was changed back to St. Petersburg, marking the rounding of the grave of the furry red bear that once made the world tremble. With the fall of the red furry bear, the bear people who had hoped to live a good life suddenly found that a cold winter was coming. Zhang Su, who was walking on the street in St. Petersburg, was stopped by someone. Standing in front of Zhang Su was an old man wearing an old-fashioned Red Bear army uniform. The original sharp and resolute eyes of the old man have been obliterated by the embarrassing life. The old man, shivering in the biting cold wind, raised his crooked hands. Among the several medals in his hands, the medal for the defense of Leningrad stood out among them. Zhang Su secretly used legitimacy on the old man, and learned that the old man's home had no food, and now he can only exchange the glory he bought with his life when he was young, in exchange for bread to satisfy his hunger. Zhang Su took out his wallet and bought a medal in the old man's hand at a price twice the old man's asking price. Zhang Su uses US dollars. At this time, the US dollar is a more popular hard currency than the ruble here, which can provide better help for the elderly. Zhang Su can only do so much for a veteran who fought for the anti-fascist cause. At the Baltic Sea shipyard, Zhang Su stood on the roof of an office building next to the dock, quietly watching the aircraft carrier Kiev in the dock, which was undergoing renovation. After Kiev was officially decommissioned on June 1993, Zhang Su proposed to the country a three-step plan to purchase an aircraft carrier. In August, the country approved the plan with great efficiency. Then, after a month of negotiations, in the bewildered faces of the bears who thought that the other party was going to buy the Kiev back as a warship, they set up a series of harsh conditions such as dismantling the weapons system and power system, and in the face of countless vodka and an Irguoto empty bottle, the contract for the purchase and renovation of the Kiev was signed. As the proponent of the plan, Zhang Su, the Navy, should be invited by a maritime hotel and entertainment company to visit St. Petersburg when he is free, and to offer his opinions and suggestions. By the way, I don't know when the aircraft carrier we built will be launched. A middle-aged man in a suit beside Zhang Su said with a sigh. Uncle Zhang, don't worry, you will definitely see it before you retire with the rank of Major General. Zhang Su said. The person talking to Zhang Su was a man who worked at the Naval Equipment Demonstration Research Center, associate researcher with special government allowance. In order to prevent soldiers from appearing at the renovation side of the Kiev to stimulate Mao Shuang's nerves, none of the soldiers present war suits. Standing on the other side of Zhang Su was the general manager of a certain offshore hotel and entertainment company. Xiao Zhang, many products now have an image spokesperson. I think our hotel will also find one in the future. What do you say about Gongli? Mr. Pan, I think it's better to draw a real person instead of a real person. Ugh, draw it yourself. I'll give you a person's contact information later. When you return to Beijing, go to him and tell him your request and my opinion, and he will take care of it. The one drawn is a mascot like Panpin, and I will have to give it another name when the time comes. Almost. But you don't need to name it differently. It's called Kiev, the ship girl. After the three chatted for a while, Zhang Su ran to the deck of the Kiev and left. Originally, Zhang Su planned to take this opportunity to invite Fu Rong to come to St. Petersburg for vacation, but 2 days before the vacation, Gabriel was defeated by a cold, and Fu Rong had to stay at home to take care of her. So Zhang Su, who was alone, planned to leave early after visiting St. Petersburg, and went to France to visit Gabriel. After leaving the Baltic shipyard, Zhang Su wandered alone in the streets of St. Petersburg, thinking about where to have dinner tonight in St. Petersburg today. The lives of ordinary citizens have fallen into trough, but Zhang Su, who carries a lot of rubles and US dollars, can be rich and willful. Zhang Su, who was walking on the street, suddenly felt a wave of magic coming from the side of the road. Turning his head, he saw a small shop appearing among the shops on the side of the road. Zhang Su found that this was a shop for wizards like the Leaky Cauldron, and there were many magical items in the windows on both sides of the shop door, so he walked to the shop to see what good things were inside. Zhang Su likes to visit such magic item stores, not because he wants to find something like a hidden grandfather. In this magical world, only dark wizards would do this, except for Harry Potter's pair of glasses. Touching that kind of thing might be the same as using Voldemort's Horcrux diary, and it might do something strange after being controlled unconsciously. He likes to visit such stores because sometimes the ideas of making some magic items can give him more or less inspiration. Walking into the store, Zhang Su found that the temperature inside was not low. Wearing a thick winter coat, he was sweating after a while, so he could only take off the bearskin coat and hold it in his hand. At this time, greetings in Russian came from the shop. Zhang Su looked at the counter and saw a waiter who looked about 16 years old standing behind the counter. When Zhang Zhugang wanted to ask the other party if he could speak English, the waiter said to him in not so fluent Chinese, "You how? You are Huaziran?" "Yes, hello." Zhang Su replied. Maybe it's because she hasn't spoken Chinese for a long time, but after a while she found the feeling and became fluent in speaking Chinese. "Welcome, what do you want to buy?" the waiter asked. "I came in by accident, let me take a look first," Zhang Su said. "Okay, there are all kinds of magic items on the front shelf, which are not dangerous. The inside shelves are all kinds of books," the waiter explained to Zhang Su. Chapter 104 Commodities full of national characteristics. Zhang Su walked to the shelf, picked up a stone the size of a disposable lighter from a box, and looked it over carefully. Zhang Su couldn't see the function of this stone, and he couldn't understand the Russian language on the label beside him. He could only recognize that the icon on the label was to throw the stone into a cup filled with water. "This is a vodka stone, put it in water and it will turn water into vodka." The waiter did not know when he came to Zhang Su's side and explained to him the stone in his hand. Only then did Zhang Su look at the waiter carefully. Her figure is tall and plump, like a sine function image deflected by 90 degrees. Her pale face can be described as exquisite, with blue eyes and chestnut hair combed into a thick braid. She was wearing a white sailor suit with a blue collar and a light gray dress, a pair of lace socks tightly wrapped around her shapely calves, and brown leather shoes on her feet. If she was put among the girls at Hogwarts, there would be no one who could fight in terms of body and appearance. In the past few decades, maybe there is no one who can beat Hogwarts, not even Hagrid can beat her. Zhang Su nodded, put down the stone full of the strong ethnic characteristics of the fighting nation in his hand, and picked up a funnel with a strange shape. There are actually 2 exits under this funnel. "This is a separation funnel," the waiter continued. "Pour into freeze, bath liquid, alcohol extract like our medicinal wine, toilet water, etc. into the funnel, and the alcohol contained in it will come out of the funnel. It comes out of one mouth, and the remaining useless liquid flows out of the other mouth. Well, it is another magical item with strong ethnic characteristics. Next, What Zhang Su saw was a glass that could only hold wine with an alcohol content above 50.00%. If the alcohol content in the glass was lower than, %, the glass would spray out all the wine inside. This reminded Zhang Su of something he heard during the summer vacation. Yeltsin was invited to visit China for the first time last year. At the banquet, he picked up an extra-large matchstick more than 2 inches long, struck it, put it on the mouth of a wine bottle, and watched the reaction of the match. He preached to the elders on the side, the ones above 53 degrees emit blue flames, the ones below 53 degrees emit red and blue flames, and the ones below 40 degrees emit red flames. Maybe there are no customers in the store recently. At first, Zhang Su picked up whatever the waiter introduced, and then she enthusiastically introduced every item on the shelf to Zhang Su. Fortunately, after walking a few steps into the store, the products on the shelves no longer have ethnic characteristics. After all, it is common sense to place best-selling products near the door. Zhang Su looked at the various magic books on the shelf at the back, and found that they were all in Russian, which he couldn't understand, so he gave up. Then the waiter began to explain to Zhang Su the products on the other shelf. After walking a few steps, Zhang Su and the waiter found that a magic item was emitting light. It was a thick crystal disc, about 5 centimeters high and more than 20 centimeters in diameter. The light in the crystal disc actually formed a red arrow pointing directly at Zhang Su. Zhang Su moved a few steps aside, and the arrow followed him. This is a crystal plate used to detect broken souls. The waiter said, when there are broken souls near it, it will sound an alarm. It is mainly used to keep at home here. An alarm is sounded when a ghost enters the home. Ghosts such as Professor Binns, Fat Friar and Nick in Hogwarts, their souls are still incomplete for living people. And the ghosts in the world are not necessarily harmless like them, such as Peeves, so many people don't like ghosts entering their homes. This unknown shop is mainly because Zhang Su can't understand the crystal plate in the Russian name of the shop, and it is prepared for families who don't want ghosts to enter their houses. After the waiter finished explaining, he turned around and looked at other products on the shelf, expressing that he didn't want to know the secrets about Zhang Su. Many wizards don't want others to know their secrets. Asking about other wizards' secrets, such as the secret that a mathematics professor has kept his appearance unchanged for 20 years, is considered extremely impolite behavior by wizards. Zhang Su usually made fun of a certain math professor's age and appearance, but he never asked him why he became like this. Zhang Su thought for a while that something on his body would cause it to call the police, and suddenly he thought, something in the treasure bag. So Zhang Su took out Ravenclaw's crown from the treasure bag, shook it around the crystal plate a few times, and found that the red arrow in the crystal plate was indeed pointing to it. The treasure bag is just a bag with an enlarged internal space and a reduced weight, which is equivalent to simultaneously maintaining the traceless stretching spell and the floating spell, so it cannot shield the fluctuations of the soul. As for why Ravenclaw's golden crown is in Zhang Su's hands, this question seems unnecessary. He is a student of Ravenclaw House, and protecting the relics of the founder of the house is something every Ravenclaw student must do. He had found Ravenclaw's diadem in the room of requirement in his first year, but he had been trying to figure out how to dispose of Voldemort's soul fragments without destroying the diadem. During the summer vacation of the first grade, when he was going to Guanghan Palace he stopped by an eminent monk who lived in seclusion in the Magao Grottos in Dunhuang. He deposited the crown with him and asked him to save the soul fragments in the crown. A year later, when Zhang Su went to Magao Grottos in Dunhuang again, the eminent monk told him that the soul in the crown is not the soul of a person after death. If the soul in the crown is converted by water, Zhang Su will die. It may not be able to dissolve the soul inside. When he saw the Dementor on the train this year, Zhang Su thought about sucking the soul out of the crown with a kiss of the Dementor, and if possible, he would take a risk to suck the soul out of Harry's head as well. It's just that Zhang Su didn't know the Dementors well at first, and later on the Quidditch pitch, the Italian bombarded its mother. It can be said that the two sides had enmity. I can't let him put on the clothes of the delivery boy to find the Dementor, hand over the crown and say, I will give you a takeaway for you to suck, and if you give a 5-star praise, I will give you a double yolk egg, but you can only suck one of them an egg yolk. That's why Zhang Su seized the opportunity a while ago and introduced him to the Dementor through fudge. He sent food additives to the Dementors, on the one hand, to dig a hole for a certain double-hole socket man, and on the other hand, he tried to establish a good relationship with the Dementors, so that he could ask them to help deal with the Horcruxes in the future. After all, Slytherin's locket, Hufflepuff's cup and Ravenclaw's diadem are collectible historical artifacts. If he could clean up these few things himself and take them home as family heirlooms, it wouldn't be a waste of time to visit Hogwarts. Chapter 105. It depends on whether these few can be brought home as family heirlooms. Now that Ravenclaw's crown is in Zhang Su's hands, it is not difficult to get Slytherin's locket after solving Black's problem. As for Hufflepuff's gold cup kept by Bellatrix Lestrange and Gringotts, she has a good relationship with the Dementors, and it is not easy to ask them to help her with a few hairs worse. After the death of her husband and wife, the inheritance of her family's treasury will be in the hands of her sister Narcissa Malfoy or her cousin Sirius Black, both of whom are acquaintances. If you want to get Slytherin's locket and Hufflepuff's gold cup in advance, and solve the problem of Harry's soul, this crystal disc detector that can find Horcruxes will be very useful. Even if it is not used to find Horcruxes, it can be used in other places if it is used and modified. It can even be used as a detector to find a certain kind of creature or even a certain person. It's just that the plate is too big and it's not convenient to use. Putting away Ravenclaw's crown, Zhang Su asked the waiter, "May I ask if this plate can be made smaller so that it can be worn on your hand like a watch?" The waiter thought for a while and replied, "Yes, but the distance can't be too far." "It doesn't need to be too far, just 1 or 2 meters," Zhang Su said. The waiter nodded and said yes. "I wonder if some other functions can be added," Zhang Su asked. "What function do you want to add?" "If it's too complicated, I can't do anything," the waiter said. "You made this crystal dish?" Zhang Su asked in surprise. "Yes, many of the products in this store are made by myself," the other party replied. "Sorry, I thought you were just a waiter in the store," Zhang Su said. "Let me introduce myself. My name is Dongnia Tumanova. You can call me Dongnia. I am the owner of this small Tumanova shop." Dongnia held out her hand to Zhang Su. "Nice to meet you. My name is Zhang Su, a student of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Witchcraft." Zhang Su shook hands with Dongnia. "So you are Fu Rong's boyfriend?" Dongnia said to Zhang Su with a smile. "Zhang Su, although I am a student at Boxburton School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, and I don't think anyone in our school has heard of your name," Tanya said with a smile, "I come back every year for Christmas, so we didn't meet 2 years ago." After knowing the identity of the other party, the conversation between the two became much easier. "Come up and have a cup of tea. By the way, tell me what function you want to add." Dongnia extended an invitation to Zhang Su. Zhang Su followed Dongnia to the living room on the second floor of the store. After Zhang Su was seated, Dongnia went to the kitchen to prepare refreshments. Soon, Tanya prepared black tea with sugar and lemon slices, a plate of cake and a plate of biscuits. Zhang Su saw a group photo of Dongnia's family in the living room, with Dongnia, her parents and grandpa on it. "Are you the only one in your house?" Zhang Su asked. "Both my parents and my grandpa have gone to Huaxia," Tanya said. "My grandpa is a professor of physics and worked in China for many years 40 years ago. I learned Chinese from him. My father is a professor of mathematics, is a muggle just like my grandfather, and he went to work in a university in Huaxia last year. My mother is a witch, and she used to be a student of Boxburton's. I heard that magic can be taught in universities in Huaxia, so I followed my father. When Huaxia was born, she passed on the store to me. My grandfather went to Huaxia to live with my parents in winter. I went back to St. Petersburg to visit the store at Christmas, and my parents would come back during the summer vacation. So you spend Christmas alone?" Zhang Su asked. "Yes," Dongnia said to Zhang Su, "if you don't mind, I invite you to spend Christmas with me this year, and it happens that we will study your detector together in these few days." Then Dongnia smiled and said to Zhang Su, "Don't worry, I won't tell Fu Rong." Zhang Su believes that she is a ghost. Zhang Su noticed from the very beginning that Dongnia called Furing's name directly. If the two of them were not familiar, Dongnia should call Furing's surname Deliker. If Zhang Su agreed, he might have fallen into the hole Dongnia dug, or the great trellis in the backyard would have collapsed. Moreover, Ravenclaw's logo is an eagle, but that doesn't mean that Zhang Su wants to be a village white eagle soaring on the balcony, and he has no plans to install floor heating and even Wi-Fi on his balcony. Then Zhang Su declined Dongnia's invitation on the grounds that he wanted to visit the sick Gabriel. Next, Zhang Su began to discuss with Dongnia about making a Horcrux detector. Naturally, Zhang Su would not tell Dongnia that this was used to detect Horcruxes, but only that it was used to detect specific ghosts. Since Harry has the soul fragment of the man with the double socket in his head, the detector must first block the signal from Harry. Then we have to block the signals of the ghosts in Hogwarts. In addition, sound, light and vibration alarm functions should be added. Since the detector is set in the style of a watch, simply add the time, calendar, alarm clock, notepad and other functions of the watch, and use it as a watch at ordinary times. After determining the function of the detector, Zhang Su and Wang Niai studied together how to realize the various functions of the detector. Unlike Hogwarts, which took alchemy as an elective course for the 6th and 7th grades, Boxbutons had always taken alchemy as a compulsory course because of Nicholas Flamel, and the professor was Nicholas Flamel. In Britain, the main knowledge of alchemy, such as the making of broomsticks, has always been controlled by various families. So at the level of alchemy, Boxbutons students can beat Hogwarts students by several English channels. Fortunately, Zhang Su has been half-taught alchemy by himself. His alchemy knowledge comes from two sources. One is the inheritance of the ancient Chinese alchemy master Zhu Yan, and the other is Nicholas Lemur. In the past 2 years, the number of letters Zhang Su wrote to Nick LeMay seeking advice on alchemy was second only to the letters to Furin, and slightly higher than the letters to Gabrielle. Since the teachers came from the same source, Zhang Su and Wang Niai did not encounter any major obstacles during the discussion. The first thing the two of them solved was the functions on the watch. These are not big problems, and there are mature technologies available. The difficulty lies in blocking specific signals. If this problem is not solved, don't expect to use it in Hogwarts. In the end, the two barely solved the problem after referring to the principle of the radio. The day before Christmas Eve, the two finally completed the design work, and the next step was Dongya's hands-on session. In the past few days, Zhang Su has also been teased by Dong Naya. Sometimes the two of them are discussing whether it is better to use an analog or a digital display time for the first minute, and the next moment she will ask Zhang Su, for example, which one is prettier, she or Furin? If she was the one who greeted Zhang Su, would Zhang Su ask her to be his girlfriend? If she and Furin fell into the water at the same time, which one would Zhang Su save first? As soon as the final design work was completed, Zhang Su ran to France as if fleeing for his life to give Gabriel medicine. Chapter 106. This is a send-off proposition. The Christmas holiday should be a time for children to play happily, but at this time Gabriel can only lie on the bed in her room alone, sitting on the edge of her bed with her mouth pouted and holding a medicine bottle in one hand. Zhang Su with candy in one hand. Gabriel, drink the medicine first, and then eat the candy, okay? Can I eat the candy first, then the candy? Then came a series of unequal treaty negotiations. Gabriel's condition is more serious than what Furin told Zhang Su. In the first spell class of the first grade, Professor Flitwick once warned the students to pronounce the spells accurately. Once someone mispronounced a letter when casting the levitation spell, and turned into a cow. It is said that someone once did a deadly experiment, and they could really get the cows out, but the types of cows they got out were random. Sometimes they were yellow cows, sometimes they were dairy cows. And Gabriel sneezed while chanting a spell while using a little magic. Gabriel, who was planning to color her toys at the time, turned into colorful Gabriel. Fortunately, Mr. Delacour's level of potion is very good. Gabriel began to fade after making a potion for Gabriel. It's just that the taste of the potion is not very good. Gabriel will stare at anyone who feeds Gabriel the medicine. After finally coaxing Gabriel to swallow the potion, Zhang Su quickly stuffed a sour popping candy into her mouth, which made Gabriel feel better. After talking with Gabriel for a while, Zhang Su left Gabriel's room with an empty medicine bottle. Zhang Su came to Mr. Delacour's study and returned the medicine bottle to Mr. Delacour. Su, now Gabriel only listens to you. We have persuaded her for a long time, but she just refuses to take the medicine. Mr. Delacour said to Zhang Su. Zhang Su automatically made Su into the word son-in-law. Everyone spoils Gabriel too much, sometimes we should be stricter with her, Zhang Su said. I think you are the least qualified to say such a thing, M. Delacour said with a smile. Look at the candy you gave her this year. It's going to empty out the candy shop. As soon as he came out of Mr. Delacour's study, Zhang Su was pulled into the room by Fu Rong. Zhang Su was pushed down on the chair, and then Fu Rong stood in front of him, looking down at him with a frosty face. Zhang Su felt that the atmosphere was not right, but he couldn't figure out what was going on for a while, so he put on a Quincy face and looked at Fu Rong. At this time, You must not believe in the words leniency and confession and strictness and resistance, in case the other party is only angry because you didn't buy her lipstick, but you confess to her that you had dinner with her best friend last night and watched a movie. That is to confess and get out of jail, and resist strictness and go home for the new year. The two stared at each other for a while, and Fu Rong said coldly, "Say what to say." Ovo Furin bent down, supported Zhang Su's right shoulder with one hand, and stretched out the other hand to Zhang Su's face, gently stroking the ear missing half of the earlobe. "Your letter just said that you passed out, but you didn't tell me that you were injured." Fu Rong's voice was no longer cold with a hint of trembling. "It's a small problem, it's all right," Zhang Su said with a smile. "I have many ways to save my life, and it's not so easy to get into trouble. Could it be that you will become ugly because I lack a little ear, and you won't love me anymore?" Zhang Su said while putting his arms around Fu Rong's waist. "What do you mean?" Rong jumped up like Professor McGonagall whose tail was stepped on, broke free from Zhang Su's arms around her, and glared at Zhang Su angrily. "Do you think I only care about your looks? Even if your face is eaten by a werewolf, I don't care. I think my beauty alone is enough for both of us." Zhang Su stood up, pulled Fu Rong over and hugged her in his arms. "I'm sorry to make you worry," Zhang Su said softly to Fu Rong in his arms. "It's just that sometimes, even if I know that the battle ahead is dangerous and I can actually escape, no one blames me, but I have to fight reason." The room fell silent, and the two hugging could only hear their own and each other's heartbeat. Fu Rong pushed Zhang Su away, pushed him onto the bed, and began to take off his clothes. Zhang Su, who was crushed below, was fiercely resisting Fu Rong's atrocities. "Stop it, it's still daytime. Don't make noise, I want to check if there are any other injuries on your body." At this moment, the colorful Gabriel opened the door and walked in, tilting her head and looking at the two who were wrestling on the bed with a puzzled expression. The two who had finished their clothes in seconds greeted Gabriel. Seeing Gabriel come in, Zhang Su also heaved a sigh of relief. The scars on his body from the injuries he suffered during the May, Street anti-sweeping campaign have not completely disappeared. Before that, he gave Bethune the most effective medicines on his body, and he only kept some ordinary trauma medicines during the anti-sweeping campaign. He used most of the remaining trauma medicine on the battlefield, and he only used it to save his life when he was seriously injured. When Zhang Su returned to Hogwarts, the scars on his body startled Madame Pomfrey and Dumbledore, who had heard the news from the scars on Harry's forehead and the scars on Mad-Eye Moody's face. It can be seen that the scar removal technology in the UK is not very high, so Zhang Su can only use Zhang Chu's acne-removing cosmetics to slowly heal the scars. Remove scars. If these scars were seen by Fu Rong, what kind of trouble would arise? Just when Zhang Su wanted to go and pick up Gabriel, Fu Rong took Gabriel away first. "I still have questions to ask you." Fleur's face turned cold again. "Who is Scarlet?" Zhang Su was shocked. How could such a thing happen? "She's our math professor at Hogwarts." "Is she very beautiful?" Furin then asked. "Pretty," Zhang Su nodded and said. "You can't tell that she is almost 40 years old. She looks about the same age as you." "She has a good relationship with you?" Fu Rong asked again. "Yes," Zhang Su replied. "More than 10 years ago, her family was hunted down by Death Eaters, and it was my father who saved her when she was in the most danger." Then Zhang Su recounted the story of his father's heroic rescue of the beauty back then, but there was no Bujingayan in his story. This question might be a proposition, so Zhang Su decisively chose to divert Furing's attention. Under Zhang Su's guidance, Fu Rong regards Scarlet as Zhang Su's elder. Fu Rong nodded, and used the floating spell to take a letter from the desk and hand it to Zhang Su. It was delivered by an owl when Zhang Su was feeding Gabriel just now, and the envelope had Scarlet's very ladylike cursive signature on it. Zhang Su opened the letter, and Scarlet asked Zhang Su to return to Hogwarts the day before the holiday. After Zhang Su read the letter, Fu Rong asked again, "Who is more beautiful, Dong Niaya or I?" Another sending proposition. Chapter 107. This is different from what I expected. When Zhang Su returned to Hogwarts, it was already very late. In the kitchen, Zhang Su filled a small pot of chestnuts in a copper pot and put them on the table. There is a small chestnut grove beside the Forbidden Forest. Zhang Su stocked up a lot of chestnuts in autumn. Just when Zhang Su was about to shell the chestnuts, Harry's trio came to the kitchen. "Do you want to eat?" Zhang Su asked. The Harry trio nodded. Zhang Su filled the copper pot with chestnuts and handed it to Harry and the others. "If you want to eat, help with the work." So Ron and Hermione sat at the table, took out their wands, and shelled chestnuts. Harry, on the other hand, used warm water to send out shiitake mushrooms. After turning off the alarm of the Horcrux detector on his wrist, Zhang Su took a few pieces of chicken breast, put them on the cutting board, and cut the chicken into pieces with Shen Feng Wang, but the cutting board was not damaged. If Snape were here, he might have beaten Zhang Su up. Due to the frequent practice in the kitchen, after sacrificing many chopping boards, Zhang Su's sharp-edged Wuang can be said to be better than blue. After blanching the chicken, Zhang Su used the fillet spell to get a large casserole and put the chicken in it. Then, the chestnuts and shiitake mushrooms that Harry and the others had processed were also poured in, and then a few slices of ginger were added. After adding water, Zhang Su put the casserole on the fire. While the stewed chicken with chestnuts was not yet cooked, the four of them sat around the table and chatted. At Christmas, someone gave me a Dongfang 31 broom, Harry said, but I don't know who sent it. Harry's Nimbus 2000 did not escape the fate of being smashed to pieces by the Whomping Willow. Harry already had a deep relationship with the broom that Professor McGonagall gave him, and he was sad for a long time because of it. And this Dongfang 31 is a product against a firebolt. Its performance is, % higher than that of the firebolt, but the price is only, % of the firebolt. Moreover, this broom follows the path of hunger marketing, and it is not easy to think about it. The England Quidditch national team ordered 7 Dongfang 31s before Christmas, and they vowed to rub the Irish team on the ground in the Quidditch World Cup. Have you ever wondered who gave it to you? Is the broom okay? Zhang Su asked. I asked Bill, Ron said. This broom was mail-ordered by someone anonymously, and it was delivered directly to Harry with free shipping in the store. And Professor Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall, and Bill have all checked it. There is no trace of a curse on it. The broomsticks produced by Huaxi use oriental spells. If a British wizard wants to cast a curse on it, it will be as conspicuous as writing a large paragraph of English in a Chinese book. In this way, the person who gave the broom should not have any malicious intentions. Zhang Su said, can we find out who it is in the store? I can't find it, Ron said. Bill said that the order and the gold coins were sent by the owl of the post office. At that time, Bill thought it was a professor from Hogwarts who was going to surprise Harry. Professor McGonagall said it was probably given by that person. Harry said excitedly. The youth magazine had just finished reporting on the basilisk incident, and the cover of that issue still had a photo of Harry stabbing the basilisk to death as a result. The next issue a week later was that Harry was attacked and injured by a Dementor during a Quidditch match, and even his broomstick was scrapped, but the report didn't say Harry's injury. During that time, this incident was quite a big deal, and basically all the wizards who paid attention to the news knew about it. So when checking the broom, Professor McGonagall speculated that it might have been given to Harry after the hermit knew that Harry's broom was broken after using the exclusion method to exclude people Harry knew. Only this good friend of Harry's father who may have died that year remained. Zhang Su had to admire Professor McGonagall. From a certain point of view, her reasoning was correct of course. The premise was that Zhang Su hadn't let her thoughts into the ditch from the very beginning. Due to Dementors scurrying around Hogwarts and around Hogsmeade this school year, activity at the Shrieking Shack has stopped. At the start of the school year, Zhang Su had arranged the Shrieking Shack to look like a secret hideout for a few Hogwarts mischievous students, then pretend to leave out a product brochure from the Wheel Eyes broom shop. Now it seems that there is a good chance that the person who gave Harry the broom was Black. If it can be confirmed that Black sent the broom, then it can basically be concluded that he is not Voldemort's spy. As for Scabbers, he had time to place an order in the shop, but he had no chance to go to Gringotts to get the money, and Bill said that the order came with gold coins, not a check. Zhang Su decided to go to the Screaming Shack when he was full, to see if the order sheet at the back of the product brochure was still there. Who's that guy who's sure he's not a danger to Harry? Hermione asked. When Professor McGonagall was checking the broom, Hermione heard Professor McGonagall and Harry mention that person, but she not only did not get an answer after asking, but was also warned by Professor McGonagall. Without useful clues, Hermione couldn't reason it out even if she changed her surname to Redigo. Zhang Su in front of her now obviously knew this person, so she turned to Zhang Su to solve her doubts. Don't ask about this person, don't think too much about it, let alone investigate. Zhang Su said to Hermione, Professor McGonagall doesn't let you talk about it, there is a reason. Looking at Ben Ben who was eating chestnuts, it was impossible for Zhang Su to let him know about this matter. Several people chatted about other things for a while, and the stewed chicken with chestnuts was ready, So everyone happily ate chicken together. After leaving the kitchen, Zhang Su decided to go to the Screaming Shack after eating and drinking. With the invisibility turned on, Zhang Su quietly came to the Whomping Willow. After confirming that there were no Dementors, black dogs and other creatures around, he walked into the secret passage leading to the Screaming Shack. In the secret passage, Zhang Su found that there were many dog footprints on the ground, both in the direction of entering Hogwarts and leaving. It seems that during this period of time, Black has entered and exited Hogwarts through this secret passage many times. Entering the Screaming Shack, Zhang Su checked carefully. There were many dog paw marks on the ground. After finding that Black was not in the Screaming Shack, Zhang Su was relieved. He had no plans to confront Black right now. In the hall where the celebration banquet was held on the first floor, on the long table, Zhang Su saw the product catalog of the broom that he deliberately left behind. Zhang Su pretended to drop this catalog on the ground at that time, but now it is placed on the table, and the stool in front of it has been moved again. It can be seen that someone has sat in a chair and read this catalog. When Zhang Su opened the catalog, he saw that the order attachment at the back of the catalog was still in the catalog and had not been torn off. Chapter 108, The Crimson Devil and Number 039, S Repayment. On the way back to Hogwarts Castle from the Shrieking Shack, Zhang Su had question marks in his head. If it wasn't Blake who gave Harry the broom, who would it be? Zhang Su thinks it is possible that Black got the order from other places, but this is unlikely. If Blake is excluded, the others don't have to send gifts anonymously. Possibly Dumbledore, Professor McGonagall and Lupin. If they gave Harry a broom, Hogwarts had just issued this year's welfare allowance before the Christmas holiday, and the pockets of the professors were bulging, but there is no need for their words to be anonymous, just give them to Harry openly. The same goes for the Wheeleyes. Money is not a problem, their family has made a lot of money in the past few months, and this shop is theirs, so it doesn't matter if they don't need money recently. Even when Draco Malfoy taunted Ron every day, he didn't say that their family was poor, but instead laughed at their family's nouveau riche. They also don't need to send brooms to Harry anonymously. Suddenly, Zhang Su thought of a person who had been silently caring and loving Harry behind his back, but never showed it in front of him. If the broom was given to Harry by Snape, then the financial resources, motives, and reasons for anonymity all make sense. Zhang Su returned to the dormitory and saw Christmas gifts piled up beside his bed. In addition to past friends, there are a few special gifts this year. Bill Weasley sent a slate from the inside of the Egyptian pyramid, and the slate described the ancient Egyptians celebrating the harvest. Mrs. Weasley gave him a hand-knitted sweater with a Zhang pattern on it, and Zhang Su knew that it was her thanking him for saving Harry. At the same time, there was also a letter inviting Zhang Su to visit their home during the summer vacation. Snape gave him a bottle of special potion for removing scars. Luna sent this year's Quibbler. Zhang Su's relatives and friends in China basically don't have the habit of giving Christmas gifts, only money will always give him gifts at Christmas. Opening the gift from Mr. Jin, it was a model of a golden wheat field the size of an A4 paper. Ripe ears of wheat set off waves of wheat like a breeze. Suddenly, a cute wolf sprang out of the wheat waves. After the wolf howled up to the sky, it wandered around in the wheat field. Zhang Su put this wheat field on the desk. Next to it is a figurine of Kagale who will play Kagale after entering the magic power. After opening all the Christmas presents, Zhang Su found that one person seemed to be missing. After rechecking, he found that there was no gift from Scarlet. Could it be that the majestic figure of the young lady I gave her, who is full of dignity and crouching with her head in her arms, made her angry? Zhang Su thought. Just when Zhang Su was about to go to bed, the door of his dormitory was opened. Wearing a thick winter dress mainly in pink with a red ribbon, Scarlet walked into Zhang Su's dormitory. Ever since Zhang Su introduced Ramelia-style clothing to her, she has fallen in love with this kind of clothing matching, and her daily clothes are all in this style. Zhang Su, who didn't understand the situation, looked confused. What is the rhythm of Cao's arrival? I knew it would be like this, and I just thought that Bill on the other side of the Atlantic would give me all his shares. I'm back. Scarlet took a chair and sat beside Zhang Su. I just came back. Zhang Su said, why did you ask me to come back early? Scarlet glanced at the empty packing box on the ground, and said to Zhang Su, aren't you very sad that you didn't receive my gift? Oh. Zhang Su didn't understand what was going on. I'm here to give you a gift. Scarlet said to Zhang Su with a smile, at the same time, it's also to repay your kindness for saving me back then. Repay your kindness. Repay your kindness. Scarlet is here. Scarlet is here. Don't give Zhang Su any chance to refute. The eldest lady of the great Scarlet family, she has inherited the glorious tradition of repaying kindness by Suzanne, Cheyenne Luo girl, Dongting at this moment. The soul of Lake Dragon Girl possesses Scarlet alone, and she represents the historical tradition of repayment. At this moment, she is not fighting alone. She is not alone. Looking at Scarlet in front of him, who is almost 3 times his age, but looks not much older than him, Zhang Su wonders whether he has followed or not. Zhang Su suddenly thought that she would only turn 14 at the end of the month, and if something happened to her in the future, she would go to jail. Forget it, Zhang Su thought, if he doesn't get discovered, he'll be fine. How are you doing now? You just came back, do you want to take a rest tonight and talk about it tomorrow? Scarlet asked. Seeing Zhang Su shaking his head, Scarlet stood in front of him and took his hand. Bring it on. Zhang Su was pulled up by her in a daze, and followed her away. When Zhang Su came to his senses, he and Scarlet were already standing in Slytherin's secret room. Could it be that she likes such a tune? It's exciting to think about it, and she's not afraid of being discovered. Zhang Su thought. Wait, why are you a parcel tuong? Zhang Su regained his normal thinking ability, and immediately thought of something wrong. Scarlet brought him along the way. Why can't I be a parcel tuong? Scarlet asked back. I remember that people from Slytherin College studied your family's genealogy and found that your family has nothing to do with the Slytherin family. Zhang Su replied in surprise. Forgive color, that was an accident that was unknown to outsiders hundreds of years ago. Forgive color. Zhang Su stared at the ceiling speechlessly. That's the problem, Zhang Su said. Why did the surname Fu attack your family? Didn't he attack the pure-blooded family? Also, you knew about the Chamber of Secrets last year. I'll tell you the first question when I have a chance. Scarlet said, as for the matter of the secret room, don't say you didn't know the situation beforehand. Ask the Hungzhou Su family to record all the speeches in Parseltongue. Come on, I can think of such a method. I don't believe you can't think of it. Zhang Su could only he. Okay, let's talk about the gift I gave you. Scarlet said while taking Zhang Su to the stone statue of Slytherin. That guy named Fu didn't get the Slytherin family. I don't know the real purpose of this Chamber of Secrets, and I thought it was just a place to keep basilisks. On the contrary, our family has records of this, and we understand that the basilisks are only the guards of the real secrets of Slytherin here. My 6th grader time came once, passed the test set by Slytherin, and got the real secret of Slytherin. This secret can only be opened by the descendants of Slytherin. But apart from our descendants of Slytherin, it can also be open. People we approve go in to participate in the test, and those who pass the test can also get the Slytherin secret. If you pass, remember to choose only one, or you will pay a price you cannot accept. In the end, Scarlet sighed. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 109: The Strangest Battle in the History of Magic. Zhang Su was stupefied. What was going on with the development of the martial arts and fairy tale novels? The painting style has become too big, and he himself has no intention of being the protagonist to kill the quartet. If he wanted to be the protagonist to fight against Voldemort, he would have dug his father's grave and exchanged it with the bones in the grave next door, so that Voldemort would doubt his life, or just bury a dozen or 20 kilograms of C4, and it will be done once and for all. This gift is too precious. Zhang Su said. You think too much? The gift I gave you is just an opportunity to participate in the test, not a direct gift to you. Whether you can pass or not is none of my business. Scarlet said. Anyway, death if not, then try it. It's just that the opportunity to participate in the test is also very precious. Zhang Su said. I went to your house a while ago. Scarlet said. What? Zhang Su was taken aback. How did you get there? I brought a few caddies of fruit and 2 boxes of tea and went. Your home address is in your student's booklet. Scarlet said. It's been so many years, there's nothing you can't see. Your father said letting me take good care of you is the best repayment to him. So this is my repayment to you, father and son, for saving my life. Seeing that Zhang Su remained silent for a long time, Scarlet said again, why, you are not satisfied with this gift? Do you want me to repay the favor like the snail girl? It doesn't seem to be impossible. If you want to be a child, I can discuss it with Fu Rong. Then you can call her sister Fu wrong according to your seniority. After speaking, Zhang Su was shocked, and he seemed to have said something terrible just now. Name. Ignoring Zhang Su's attempt to change the subject by dying, Scarlet stood in front of the Slytherin statue. The two have known each other for so long, and she already knows which words Zhang Su can listen to and which words she doesn't need to listen to. Scarlet pointed at the stone statue with his wand, and then made a hissing sound from his mouth. After more than a minute, the stone under the statue stirred like water, forming a 2-meter wide and 3-meter high gate with the Slytherin family crest on the gate. Then, the door opened, and there was a white mist inside. Get out your wand, and go in. Scarlet's breathless voice showed exhaustion. Scarlet spent almost all of his magic power to open the door for him. Zhang Su was very moved when he saw it. Zhang Su had encountered this kind of situation where his magic power was almost exhausted. He knew how uncomfortable it was. Feel good. Don't you have to wait for a change of air inside? I haven't opened the door for so many years. If there is no oxygen inside, wouldn't I be doomed if I go in? Zhang Su said to Scarlet. Zhang Su considered this situation when he entered the secret room for the first time. At that time, he still carried an oxygen cylinder and a respirator in his treasure bag just in case. It was only later discovered that the well-ventilated chamber was useless. It is no longer news that the archaeological team dug up the remains of a suffocated tomb robber in an ancient tomb. When I read the news during the summer vacation, a tomb robber with a bottle of Wahaha mineral water was dug up in an ancient tomb. Today's tomb robbers will first use the blower driven by the battery to blow air into the tomb. I just don't know if the inside of this chamber of secrets is as well ventilated. When Zhang Su saw Scarlet leaning against the wall looking at him with his eye face, he immediately came to his senses. If there was a lack of oxygen inside, the person in front of him would have been completely cold. Zhang Su took out his wand and walked into the light and mist. After walking a few steps, Zhang Su found himself in a hall, which was a bit like an emergency room. Zhang Su turned around, and sure enough, he and the others as written in the novel, there is no way out except for the air being a little stuffy. There seems to be no major problem. At this time, an old and slightly hoarse voice sounded in the hall. Chosen mate of my posterity, welcome to the vaults of House Slytherin. What does my partner mean? Hey, can you hear me? Zhang Su was taken aback and shouted around the room. He found that he seemed to be cheated. The voices in the room didn't stop because of Zhang Su's question, and he talked about the greatness of the Slytherin family there. It seems that the program was arranged early in the morning. Zhang Su said to himself. The challenge you will face is to face another self, defeat it and defeat it, and you will get my gift. After listening to Slytherin's message in the room, Zhang Su said to himself, it's really a cliché, but it lacks a useful plot. Simulating a challenger is the easiest, but also the most practical way. At this time, the floor opposite Zhang Su continued to bulge, and he soon turned into a handsome young man. The earlobe of his left ear was half missing just like Zhang Su. Zhang Su immediately put a lot of defensive spells and spells on himself, then put on a pair of sunglasses, and then quickly left the place, constantly changing positions. Zhang Su didn't dare to bet on whether the opponent copied the contents of his treasure bag. If the opponent imitated his fighting style, first blinded him with a strong light, and then took out an 81 bar and slammed it at him, he would ruined. Soon, Zhang Su felt relieved. The imitation on the opposite side just waved his wand at him, and didn't intend to take out anything else. Suddenly, a black shadow like a snake flew out from the tip of the imitation wand, attacking Zhang Su. Zhang Su immediately used Shen Feng Wuing to cut the incoming object in half in the air. The object that was divided into two halves fell in front of Zhang Su with a snap. Zhang Su, who saw clearly what the object was stunned. Damn it, why is this meow a piece of char sui? A gust of wind came, Zhang Su squatted down to dodge, then turned his head, and saw a roast duck hit the wall behind him with a slap. The ensuing battle became more and more bizarre. Zhang Su didn't make any offense, just stood there, just using the wind wall to defend against the counterfeit's attack. Soon, there were 2 Westlake vinegar fish, a pile of Fuzhou fish balls, 5 Ningxiang flavored snakes, a squirrel mandarin fish, a pound of fish-flavored shredded pork, a dozen sea cucumbers with green onions, and 3 braised milk in front of Zhang Su. Pigeons, 6 braised lion heads, and stuffed buns and dumplings all over the place. At this moment, Zhang Su understood that the white mist he had passed through just now had the function of legitimacy, in order to copy the memory of the person who walked in for the imitation. It's just that the Slytherin thousands of years ago did not expect that in the future, someone would add a firewall to his memory in order to defend against legilimency and veritaserum. Through this method, he could only get the recipes of the 8 major cuisines. So, this sad imitation can only keep throwing out various dishes. After a wave of stinky mandarin fish, stinky tofu, and bean juice came from the imitation products on the opposite side, Zhang Su fought back. A few calm fireballs passed by, and the imitation product was finally blasted to ashes after defending in vain with old duck vermicelli soup, apricot red date chicken leg soup, hot and sour soup and Buddha jumping wall. Chapter 110 The Slytherin Who Can in number 039, to keep up with the development of the times. After the imitation turned into ashes, the walls around the entire hall suddenly dispersed. At the same time, 2 gates stood on the left and right in front of Zhang Su. A wand wrapped in a snake is carved on one door, and a book wrapped in a snake is carved on the other door. The Slytherin recording sounded again. The recording told Zhang Su that the 2 doors, the door engraved with a poisonous snake wrapped around a wand represented Slytherin's power, and the door engraved with a poisonous snake wrapped around the book represented Slytherin's knowledge. Behind the door representing power, there is a potion that can increase the wizard's magic power several times, and 1 drink can increase the magic power. Behind the door representing knowledge is Slytherin's library, where visitors can study for a year. Then the recording of Slytherin said that if you want to gain power and knowledge at the same time, you will be cursed randomly, and people who are cursed don't know which one they are, and they can only wait for themselves to discover. Then the Slytherin tape recorder listed all the curses. Zhang Su frowned when he heard a certain curse. After the recording was finished, the 2 doors opened at the same time. In the end, Zhang Su walked into the door representing knowledge without hesitation. Behind the gate is a library with hundreds of books on the shelves. Zhang Su walked around, and just by looking at the title of the book, he knew that it was a variety of advanced magic books. I have read a few books, all of which are very esoteric. If I can understand 3 or 5 books in a year, it is considered great. Zhang Su tried several times and found that these books could not be taken out, but could only be read and copied inside, and the automatic quill can't be used here, you can only do it yourself. Zhang Su took out a modified Polaroid camera, took pictures of the contents of several books, and found that the contents of the books could be photographed. So Zhang Su was not in a hurry, and asked the country to send a magic version of the copier over. If Slytherin knew what Zhang Su was thinking, he would probably vomit 2 caddies of blood. Why did he not have a camera in that era? Walking out of the stone gate representing knowledge, Zhang Su looked at the stone gate representing power, and started a struggle in his heart. A voice said in his mind, "Don't be greedy, knowledge is enough, power or something, knowledge is power." Another voice said in his mind, he was wearing a top-level protective suit, so he was still afraid of the curse thousands of years ago. Thinking about the martyrs who died in front of his eyes at that time, it was because he was unable to protect them that he made them sacrifice. In the end, Zhang Su handed over the choice to the coin in his hand. When Zhang Su walked out of the lower door of the Slytherin statue, she saw that Scarlet had conjured up a set of sofa and coffee table with transfiguration. She was sitting on it to rest. Empty dim sum plates. Zhang Su sat beside Scarlet, and before Scarlet could speak, he pulled Scarlet into his arms and hugged her. "Thank you for your hard work," Zhang Su said to Scarlet in his arms. "You know the curse," Scarlet said in a trembling voice after he stopped struggling. "And?" Zhang Su nodded. Scarlet pressed her head hard on Zhang Su's chest, trembling all over her body. In 6th grade, because the family was pressed by Voldemort step by step, Scarlet, who found clues about the real Chamber of Secrets of Slytherin in the family documents, came to the Chamber of Secrets. After passing the test of Slytherin, she resolutely ignored the curse and chose to gain power and knowledge at the same time. In the first year, she has been living cautiously, for fear that the curse on her body will strike any time. At graduation, when nothing happened, she considered herself lucky to have escaped her cursed fate. But when she started rounding up to 30 years old, looking at herself in the mirror, she realized that it was not because of her natural beauty that she had always maintained her 16-year-old beauty, but a curse that had befallen her 9 years ago body. This curse can be called a fool. Although the person who is cursed can prevent people from aging until death, when she gives birth to a child, it is the moment when her life ends. After thinking that there are younger brothers and younger sisters in her family, Scarlet figured it out. If she can't afford to mess with me, she can hide from her. At worst, she just doesn't want to get married. Although she figured it out, She still felt a sense of emptiness in her heart when she saw her brother and sister forming their own family and watching them play with their children. She didn't tell anyone about being cursed, and she bore everything silently by herself. It wasn't until today, when Zhang Su found out about it, that she was able to vent out the anguish in her heart. She decided to let Zhang Su take part in the Slytherin test, perhaps because she wanted someone she could confide in. Zhang Su hugged Scarlet lightly. He was thinking about a question: if the test tube baby surrogacy technology can solve the curse of Slytherin. After all, Slytherin's curse is based on his knowledge thousands of years ago, but Muggle technology has developed too fast in the past 1,000 years. Maybe this curse can be bypassed. After an unknown amount of time, Scarlet suddenly laughed in Zhang Su's arms. Sometimes, I don't even know whether I should be a sister or a sister in front of you, Scarlet said, resting her head on Zhang Su's shoulder. After talking about the past with Zhang Su in the ward last time, Scarlet later recognized Zhang Su as his younger brother. When Zhang Chu went to visit Zhang Su that day, Scarlet followed Zhang Su and called out "Auntie," so frightened that the sugar-fried chestnuts in Zhang Chu's hand fell to the ground. Regarding the fact that he recognized Scarlet as his god-sister, Zhang Su never told Fu Rong before meeting her. Fu Rong's heart is very sensitive. If Zhang Su suddenly wrote to her saying that he recognized a petite and lovely sister here, she would inevitably think too much. During this Christmas holiday, Zhang Su first instilled in Fu Rong that Scarlet is a reliable elder who is nearly 40 years old, but looks very young. Then he said that because her father saved her life back then, and then revealed the old things between the two of them, she has a very good relationship with herself now. In the end, she said that she refused to accept her old age, and she was very unhappy when she called her auntie, and she would be beaten, so I recognized her as my sister. After a set of rhetoric, Fu Rong's impression of Scarlet was distorted by Zhang Su. It should be on the right track, and Fu Rong also regarded Scarlet as a somewhat special elder. After all, in the magic world, there is no magic that can maintain youth for a long time. The most famous one is a witch in Japan. Her name is Hachi. Chapter 111 about the incident that the protagonist picked up a pet. When Zhang Su and Scarlet left the secret room, the sky had already brightened. While walking through a corridor, a strange shadow attracted the attention of the two. 2 minutes later, Scarlet was holding a magical animal in her arms. At first glance, many people would think that this is an ordinary black cat, but if you look carefully, you will find that this black cat has 2 tails, and there is a blue flame on the tip of the tail. What kind of animal is this? Scarlet asked. Traveling cat and flame cat, Zhang Su said uncertainly. I haven't seen it in the castle before. It must be a pet brought by a student during the holidays. Scarlet said. Probably not. The students will return to Hogwarts in the afternoon. It may be a magical creature that escaped from the Forbidden Forest. In winter, there is nothing to eat in the Forbidden Forest, so they come to the castle to find food. Zhang Su said. This, Scarlet suddenly thought of something, said in a low voice, could it be Professor McGonagall? No. Zhang Su said with certainty, Professor McGonagall's animagus is an ordinary tabby cat, but this is a black cat with 2 tails, and its tail is still glowing, obviously a magical animal. There's no way animagus can turn into a magical animal. That's good. Scarlet sighed. Why don't I take it back to the dormitory first and get something to feed it? If it ran out of the Forbidden Forest, it should be hungry. Zhang Su said looking at the struggling 2-tailed cat. Okay then. Scarlet said, since it's not another student's pet, you might as well keep it as a pet. Your quota for pets hasn't been used up yet. After speaking, Scarlet handed the 2-tailed cat to Zhang Su. Zhang Su took the 2-tailed cat, passed his left hand under its armpit from the front, and supported its hind feet and buttocks with his right hand, hugging it firmly, not afraid of its struggling 4 claws. Zhang Su thought that he really didn't have a pet, so it should be no problem to raise such a rare 2-tailed cat. That's a good idea, Zhang Su said. From then on, it will be my pet. What name should I give it? I always feel that the name you gave has other meanings in it. Scarlet said. Then I'll call it Arong. Zhang Su said. What does the name mean? Scarlet asked. The flame cat is the pet of Kuming Jiju, the owner of the Earth Spirit Temple in the Scorching Hell, which is recorded in the Eastern Seeking instructions written by the Japanese monster historian Hida Akayu. She has the ability to talk to resentful spirits, and she is also a 2-tailed cat. Zhang Su said nonsense in a serious manner. Soon, the two separated and went back to their respective dormitories. Although Zhang Su didn't sleep last night, but with a cat in his hand, he is still quite energetic now. At this moment, Arong, who Zhang Su was holding in his arms, was already exhausted from the fuss, like a useless cat, with its head, limbs and tail drooping. Back in the dormitory, Zhang Su carefully observed Arong. When holding it, Zhang Su found that it was very light and very thin to the touch. Zhang Su also found that the fur on its body was rough to the touch, and the color of its fur was very poor. When he put it on the table, Zhang Su saw that it was a little depressed. "You must have suffered a lot in the Forbidden Forest," Zhang Su said, stroking the head of Alan, who was lying on the table and pretending to be dead. Then, Zhang Su took out several bottles of nutrient potions, poured them together into a saucer conjured by transfiguration, and placed them in front of Alan. "Eat, you are very weak now, you will feel better after eating," Zhang Su said to the cat while stroking its head. Alan raised his head and stared at Zhang Su for a while, as if feeling that he was harmless. He walked to the plate and began to eat slowly. Hubba-br, after Alan finished eating, Zhang Su had already prepared a very soft and warm cushion. When Alan was placed on the mat by Zhang Su, it originally planned to run away when it was full, but it felt a warm energy flowing from its stomach to its limbs and two tails, and the warm temperature from the mat made it feeling warm all over his body. He couldn't help stretching, and then lay down on his stomach. Seeing Arong lying on the mat, Zhang Su started to scratch the back of its head. After a long while, Alan fell asleep in a daze. Just now, Zhang Su fed it some nutritional medicine, one of which is a medicine that calms the nerves and helps sleep. Because Zhang Su saw that its body was very weak, he added this potion to let it rest for a while. Just when Arong fell asleep, Zhang Su saw that the flame on the tip of its tail had been extinguished. Zhang Su had discovered before that the flame on its tail was not as hot as warming his hands, and the lighting had a greater effect. Zhang Su put his hand on Arong's body, and slowly felt the flow of magic power on it. After a long time, Zhang Su frowned. He found that the flow of magic power in Arong's body was very weak and chaotic, and was at a critical point of deterioration. If he did not control it, the flow of magic power in the body would become disordered, resulting in unknown consequences. Apparently there was a period of time when its magic was out of control to cause the current result. Maybe it has experienced very dangerous things in the Forbidden Forest, Zhang Su said to himself. Zhang Su doesn't have much to do about it. It's like looking at a city's road monitoring. You can tell whether the road is blocked or clear, but you have no way of knowing where the end of the car is. If it's human, you can find another person to guide the flow of its magic, but no one knows how to move the magic power in the body of the magic creature, and they might lose their lives because of going mad. At present, all Zhang Su can do is to let Arong recover his physical strength and energy as soon as possible, so that he can restore his own magic power flow. When Arong woke up in a daze from the warm cushion, he saw Zhang Su sitting at the table preparing the potion. At this time, it saw a small dish of fish in front of itself, and at a glance it knew it was salmon taken out of the kitchen. Seeing Arong woke up from sleep, Zhang Su stretched out his hand and scratched its chin, and said to it, "Eat some fish first, and then drink some medicine, and you will basically recover after a night of sleep." Arong, who was originally dazed, suddenly woke up, turned her head to avoid Zhang Su's hand scratching its chin, and stared at Zhang Su vigorously. Zhang Su vaguely felt that the eyes of Alan, who had recovered from a sleep, were somewhat familiar. After coaxing Arong to finish eating the fish, Zhang Su fed it the potion he had just prepared. The potion this time is no longer simply a potion for supplementing nutrition and energy. Just now Zhang Su went to the cafeteria to have lunch while Arong was sleeping, and when he met Madame Pomfrey, he told her about Arong's symptoms. Madame Pomfrey said that this kind of situation sometimes happens to dead students. She has medicine to treat this kind of problem. People can drink it and sleep well, and it should be fine to drink it from magical animals. So Zhang Su went to Madame Pomfrey's to get the medicine, and fed it to Alan together with his own medicine for replenishing physical strength and energy, which had already calmed the nerves and helped sleep. After eating fish and drinking medicine, Alan quickly fell asleep. After Zhang Su came out of the secret room last night, he chatted with Scarlet and stayed up all night, and now he is also starting to feel sleepy. So, Zhang Su hugged Arong and went to bed. When it was almost time for dinner, Scarlet opened the door and walked into Zhang Su's dormitory. Scarlet opened Zhang Su's bed curtain and asked Zhang Su to get up. "It's time to get up and take your own to eat, Professor McGonagall. Why are you sleeping here?" Chapter 112 It in number 039, not too late. I'm so stupid, really. Zhang Su raised his dull eyes, and continued, I know that animagus can have long tails and change the color of their fur. I also know the research on the false fire spell is very deep, and it can attach flames to the body when it becomes an animagus. But I didn't expect that when she used these magics together, she would accidentally go crazy and couldn't change back, he continued, but sobbing, unable to utter a sentence. On the roof of a tower in Hogwarts Castle, Zhang Su sat on the ground leaning against the wall on the roof. Scarlet sat beside Zhang Su, hugged his knees, and looked at the sky together in a daze. If she hadn't caught Professor McGonagall, who was looking for Madame Pomfrey's help, things wouldn't have happened. If she hadn't lifted the curtain of the bed when Zhang Su was about to use the transformation technique to turn into a small animal and run away, and woke up Professor McGonagall, who was going to pretend to be asleep, things wouldn't have come to this point. Fortunately, today is the last day of the Christmas holiday. The students returning to school by train have just arrived at the train station. The few students who stayed in the dormitory are still waiting for dinner in the dormitory, so except for the 3 parties, the others people don't know exactly what happened. After the Christmas holiday, Hogwarts resumed its usual activity. After using the food additives provided by Zhang Su, the Dementors found that the effect was actually good, so they assured Dumbledore that they would not enter the Hogwarts wall for half a step. This was what Zhang Su had agreed upon when he traded with the Dementors. Thanks to this, the ban on outdoor activities at Hogwarts has been relaxed. On the first weekend after the holiday, a group of students came to the Ice and Snow Castle and started a long-lost snowball fight. Zhang Su's previously proposed new method was very popular. Everyone set aside a large area and let the students hurt each other with snowballs. The one who survived in the end was the winner, and the prize was a roasted chicken with honey sauce. Because they had so much fun on the weekend, the students were a little bit overwhelmed when they went to class on Monday. In the teacher's lounge, Lupin, who was resting after lunch, was preparing for the afternoon class. At this time, the door of the lounge opened, and a head came in and looked around, heaved a sigh of relief, and then the whole person got into the lounge. Period. Seeing the sneaky Zhang Su, Lupin laughed out loud. Zhang, you are still avoiding Professor McGonagall. Lupin laughed. Zhang, why did you and Helson make Professor McGonagall angry? I've worked with her for so many years, and this is the first time I've seen her get so angry. Professor Sprout asked. Could it be that you and Helson really conspired to seize the position of headmaster of Hogwarts, as the students said, and Professor McGonagall found out? Professor Flitwick also said with a smile. At this moment, Zhang Su felt how Kong Yiji was treated when he was drinking in the hotel. Zhang Su waved his hand, expressing that he didn't want to answer their words. Some things should be left to rot on the long river of history. Professor Lupin, do you have time tonight? There is something I want to ask. Zhang Su sat next to Lupin and asked. Well, no problem. Lupin replied after thinking for a while. At 8 o'clock in the evening, Lupin, who was invited by Zhang Su to the Muggle Studies professor's office, was a little surprised when he saw Scarlet. Soon, Zhang Su told Lupin what he wanted to ask for advice. Professor Lupin, I know you have a lot of research on making magic items. Zhang Su said while pointing to the Marauders map on the table. Professor Scarlet and I professor wants to build a portable animagus detector, and we would like to ask for your help. Lupin's first reaction was that they knew that Black was an unregistered animagus, so they made this probe to catch Black. In the next second, Lupin dismissed the idea because he thought of the fact that Zhang Su and Scarlet made Professor McGonagall angry some time ago, and that Zhang Su fed the dried fish to Professor McGonagall, who turned into a tabby cat in the first Transfiguration class deeds. So Lupin thought he had guessed the truth. He guessed that Zhang Su and Scarlet fed Professor McGonagall a small fish again. Lupin, who suppressed a smile, agreed to Zhang Su's request and said that he could study the animagus detector with him. Next, Zhang Su and Scarlet introduced the design ideas of the detector to Lupin, as well as the difficulties encountered so far. Lupin's level of making magic items is indeed not low. The Marauders map made with a few friends when he was a student is a must. Zhang Su has done research on the Marauders map, and found that there are many magics used on it. I won't talk about a simple one such as the appearance of the background map. The tracking spell above is an extremely high-end spell, and it also involves the relationship between the name and the magic power. Relationship. What interested Zhang Su the most was that Lupin and the others even injected a little of their own thoughts into it before that. Another thoughtful magical item at Hogwarts was the sorting hat. You know, if this technology is used well, It can be used as artificial intelligence in the future. Moreover, the Marauders map actually has an administrator function. Lupin and the others blocked Snape from the very beginning. Recently, Zhang Su also discovered that the Marauders map has been tampered with recently, and Peter Pettigrew's name will be automatically replaced with Banban. This explains why, for so long, the Weasley twins didn't find out that their sixth child slept with a man named Peter Pettigrew every night, and why Lupin, who was also an administrator, could see the Pettigrew when he used it. Dwarf Peter's name. It all makes sense if Peter Pettigrew finds out that the twins got the Marauders map, and finds his own chance to quietly adjust the settings on the Marauders map. Zhang Su has a background in alchemy, and he has discussed with Rogia a while ago about improving the Horcrux detector, and his performance made Lupin look at him with admiration. The three of them discussed in the office for more than 2 hours, and finally finalized a preliminary design of the Animagus detector, and the rest was relatively low difficulty work and a hands-on link. After finishing tonight's research, everyone left the office together. On the way, Zhang Su asked Lupin about Harry learning the Patronus charm. You know, Harry didn't study well at first, and his past experience was really bad. Lupin said, but it's getting better recently, and he'll be able to master the spell soon. That's good, otherwise if the Dementor breaks the agreement and breaks into the campus again, Harry will have to be blown away again. I don't want to win Saturday's game and be said that we rely on Dementors. That's why we won the game, Zhang Su said. How's your Patronus charm going? Lupin asked. When Zhang Su suggested that Harry go to Lupin to learn the Patronus charm, he just sat aside to study, but he learned much faster than Harry after all. He's experienced many happy things. Missouri can make a cloud of silvery white smoke shoot out from the tip of his wand. It's okay, Zhang Su replied. I can make them do some simple movements. Chapter 113 The Dementor being beaten on the ground. In the last class on Friday afternoon, in the Muggle Studies classroom, the 7th grade students who had just finished studying commodities and the meaning of commodity economy were discussing a question raised by Zhang Su. Believes that the value of commodities is determined by socially necessary labor time, and therefore individual labor time has no practical significance for commodity producers. B disagrees, thinking that socially necessary labor time is invisible and intangible, therefore, only individual labor time has practical significance for commodity producers. Do you think they are right? Why? The students did not reach an agreement on this question until the end of class, so Zhang Su took this question as an after-class homework and asked everyone to go back and write papers to explain their ideas. After assigning another paper on how to treat currency, Zhang Su announced the end of get out of class when the bell rang. Fortunately, Zhang Su has always had no requirements on the number of words and the length of the parchment, as long as he fully expounds his own views, so the two papers do not put too much pressure on students. After class, Pinello, a senior at Eagle Academy with Zhang Su, went to the podium to look for Zhang Su. Tomorrow night we plan to have dinner at the Screaming Shack. Pinello said to Zhang Su. Is it okay for you to tell the professor that you are going to violate the school rules? Zhang Su said with black lines. Tomorrow's Quidditch matches are Ravenclaw College versus Gryffindor College. Everyone has agreed whoever loses will be treated. Pinello ignored Zhang Su's question, as if he was sure that Zhang Su would not be deducted because of their points. I object to this matter, let them go to the kitchen to make trouble. Zhang Su said to Pinello, although the Dementors promised not to enter the Hogwarts campus, they never said that they would not go to the screaming booth. Come to your dinner party. Seeing Zhang Su's objection, Pinello could only give up the main purpose of them persuading Zhang Su to participate is to let Zhang Su drive away the Dementors. If Zhang Su doesn't go, they can't go either. This year's ban on outdoor activities was uncomfortable for a group of accustomed students. The next day, Saturday, was a cool, sunny day, perfect for a Quidditch match. Zhang Su came to the Quidditch stadium early in the morning and sat in the highest stand where he stayed in the last match. Now every time there is a Quidditch match, he will come to the stand, mainly in case the Dementor comes again. He will deal with it so he won't be able to play this year. Dumbledore sent a message to Zhang Su early in the morning. If there are still Dementors coming to the campus in the future, let Zhang Su kill them, and he will bear the responsibility. At exactly 11 o'clock, the Quidditch match officially began. Today's competition was extremely intense. The two teams, who had completely replaced their new broomsticks, showed the performance of their brooms almost perfectly after each experienced a match. For a moment, blue and red shadows were flying around the field. The players of the two teams kept sprinting, making emergency stops, double-teaming, and diving, which dazzled the students in the audience. The scores of the two teams rose alternately. The most intense match in the arena was the confrontation between the two seekers. Whenever Harry Potter saw the golden snitch, Zhangqiu stepped forward to harass him. An NBSP, Harry suddenly noticed a golden flash appearing close to the ground, and immediately turned the direction of the broom and rushed in that direction. In order to get rid of Zhangqiu's interception, Harry flew the broom to the maximum speed. As a result, a blue figure suddenly rushed in front of Harry, blocking his way. By the time Harry realized it, the golden snitch had disappeared. After a few more contests between the two, Harry Potter found that Zhangqiu's broomstick could fly, with his own. Zhangsu, who was sitting in the stands, was eating sugar-fried chestnuts while watching the contest between his aunt and Harry Potter. The Dongfang 31 broom used by Harry Potter today is the fastest broom sold in the Weasley's shop. It can be said that this is already the fastest flying broom that can be bought in the British market. The Lion Academy team has the Weasley family as their backing, but it can't stop the Eagle Academy team from having Zhangsu's backing. Zhangqiu's flying broom was specially adjusted by Zhangsu on the basis of Zhelang No. In the name of senior user technical guidance when Zhangsu took her to the manufacturer during the summer vacation. Zhangqiu's broomstick optimized its maneuverability while sacrificing its maximum speed slightly. Then, a short-term afterburner sprint function was added, which can explode at a speed no less than that of the Dongfang 31 used by Harry Potter in a few seconds. Today's Eagle Academy team's game strategy is to first send Zhangqiu to interfere with Harry Potter with all his strength, and create time for the team to open the score as much as possible. If the score cannot be opened, then keep interfering with Harry Potter's activities, and then wait for the opportunity to catch the golden snitch. In this year's Quidditch competition, Eagle Court has a great advantage. After winning the first game against Badger Court, if they win this game again, this year's Quidditch champion will not be able to escape. As for the Snake Court, they all fainted from crying in the bathroom. Badger Academy's hope of winning the championship now is that Eagle Academy failed this game and then scored enough points on Snake Academy. And no matter who loses in this game, the losing side must use the Snake Court to score enough points. While eating amber almonds, Zhangsu calculated his academy's chances of winning the championship this year, and found that his academy had a great advantage. As for Oliver Wood, who wants to win the championship trophy before Hogwarts graduation, Zhangsu can only say sorry to him. You are not Roberto Baggio, who missed a penalty half a year later, so Zhangsu will not treat him sorry. When the students and professors in the auditorium were all focused on the air, Zhangsu noticed 3 furtive figures appeared on the top of a nearby stand that was almost empty. At this time in the air, the contest between the seekers entered a heated stage. Both teams played tenaciously on the court, and the score kept rising alternately, so both sides pinned their hopes of winning the game on their own seekers. Now Zhangqiu also changed his tactics, and took the initiative to attack after discovering the golden snitch, while Harry Potter changed his role and tried his best to interfere with Zhangqiu's actions. For a while, the two seekers entered a mutual injury mode, constantly causing trouble for each other. At this moment, Harry looked around for the snitch and saw a miraculous scene on the top of a certain stand. 3 Dementors, 3 tall, hooded black Dementors, were being pinned to the ground by 3 equally tall, bear-like patronuses with round faces and ears. The paws clapped and stomped. Chapter 114 Black 2 breaks into Hogwarts. The Quidditch match between the Eagle House and the Lion House ended with Harry Potter catching the golden snitch at the last moment. It wasn't that Zhangqiu didn't work hard, but because she was a little smaller than Harry, so her arms were shorter than Harry's. This caused Harry to occupy a little bit of space when the two of them reached out to snatch the snitch at the same time. Advantage. Such a result made Zhangsu helpless. He couldn't use magic to make his handle suddenly longer. This was playing Quidditch, not Street Fighter. So far, except for the Snake Academy, which has not yet participated in the competition, the other 3 academies have won 1 and lost 1, and the difference in total points is within tens of points. Such a result made the players in the Snake Academy cry, because whoever can get the most points from them next will be the champion of this year. As for the anti-killing of the Snake Court, it does not exist because now their team seeker and captain are lying on the floor above the stands panting they might be saying goodbye to Quidditch forever. When Harry and the others came to the top of the stands, they saw Malfoy, Crabbe, Goyle, and the captain of the Slytherin team, Marcus Flint, lying on the ground in a mess, All mouthing, panting heavily, he didn't even have the strength to free himself from the hooded black robe. Bending over to watch them with an extremely furious expression on their faces were the deans of the 4 colleges, including Professor McGonagall. There is also Zhang Su, who is holding a cranberry biscuit to his mouth. Seeing Harry and the others approaching, Zhang Su took out a bag of butter cookies and threw them over. Harry showed his skills as a seeker, caught a biscuit bag, and then distributed the butter cookies to the teammates who came around. Everyone ate and watched Malfoy lying on the ground and others. Despicable means, Professor McGonagall yelled, "Conspiracy to frame the Gryffindor team seeker. You will be punished for your obscene and cowardly actions, and you will also be deducted 50 points from Slytherin House. 50 cents each." Snape on the side said with a cold face. That night, in the kitchen of Hogwarts, a celebratory banquet was being held. The long table was covered with butterbeer, pumpkin juice, all kinds of sweets from Honeydukes, and all kinds of pastries and steaks. The students who made the most noise were the students of the Lion Academy, as if they had already won the championship. The students of the Eagle Academy and the Badger Academy, who still had the hope of winning the championship, also made a fuss together. Now the Eagles have won the Badgers have won the Lions, and the Lions have won the Eagles again. Everyone's win-loss relationship is mutual restrained, and everyone has hope of winning the championship in the end. Only the students of the Snake Academy sat silently on the sidelines, turning their grief and anger into appetite. If they didn't eat tonight, they would be considered as losers. Anyway, it was the money from the Eagle Academy. At this moment, Zhang Su was sitting on the outermost edge, looking at a corner of the kitchen, where a big black dog was gnawing on a piece of lamb chops. Zhang Su went to Hogsmeade in the afternoon to purchase drinks and snacks for tonight's banquet. When he came back, he found Scarlet holding a tied black dog that had been cast with a levitation spell, humming walking on the country road. "Delicious, the big dog is my companion, the blue sky with a sunset on my chest, and the colorful clouds are the clothes of the sunset," walking on the way back to Hogwarts. After seeing Zhang Su, Scarlet waved to him very happily, and then kept feeling that it was fortunate that the dog was not eaten by Black, and then planned to raise it in the kitchen until the Eagle Academy won the Quidditch Championship. Eat up! Seeing Black entering Hogwarts in the same posture for the second time, Zhang Su really wanted to use legilimency to see what he was thinking now. Maybe it was the 2 unexpected blows that calmed him down, or there were too many people. Black was quietly gnawing lamb chops in the corner, without any impulsive actions. At the same time, the other students thought that the black dog was a classmate's new pet, but they didn't take it seriously. Ignoring Black, Zhang Su looked at the noisy students, only to find that Hermione was sitting alone in a corner reading a book, did not join the banquet. Zhang Su placed a large glass of pumpkin juice and a plate of snacks on the table in front of Hermione, and saw that she was reading a thick book titled Life and Social Habits of a British Muggle Family. Zhang Su flicked Hermione's head, and when Hermione rubbed her head and looked at Zhang Su sat on the chair beside her and said to her, "I don't assign so much homework that people will leave it at the banquet. To the point of reading a book." After speaking, he took the book in Hermione's hand away. "Let's eat something first." Zhang Su pointed to the pumpkin juice and snacks he brought over. "I can't, Zhang. I still have 420 pages to read," Hermione said. Her voice sounded a little hysterical, and at the same time she stretched out her hand in front of Zhang Su, begging Zhang Su for the book just now. Besides, Hermione looked over at Ron. "He doesn't want me in." Zhang Su looked at the two of them speechlessly, and finally refused Hermione's request to return the book. "Tomorrow morning, the 3 of you come to the reading room to find me. Now your task is to have a good rest after eating." Zhang Su stood up after speaking, and then rubbed Hermione's head. After putting his hands away from Hermione's head, Zhang Su himself was stunned. How could he bring the habit of coaxing Gabriel to Hermione every time he ordered Gabriel to do something she didn't want to do? He would rub Gabriel's little head like this, and then Gabriel would just pout and reluctantly follow his orders. It seems that Hermione is sometimes like Gabriel, a child who hasn't grown up yet. Zhang Su thought. At 12 o'clock in the evening, under Zhang Su's insistence, the banquet came to an end, and everyone walked out of the kitchen in 2s and 3s. "What's the password for the common room?" "I don't remember. Circa Duggan's passwords are too many and too strange." "I remember the password for tonight is." Several students from the Lion House walked out of the kitchen while discussing the password to enter the common room tonight. They didn't notice a black dog in the corner of the kitchen staring at them. Back in the dormitory, Harry was extremely tired. He climbed onto the bed, pulled up the curtain to block out the moonlight, and lay down again. He felt as if he fell asleep immediately. He had a strange dream. He dreamed that on a busy street, a friend of his father found the man who had betrayed his parents. "Don't cast the spell, it's me, oh it's you boy, hey, it's me, oh, you were the one who lured Voldemort to James' house, hey hey. The Dark Lord asked me to tell you something, if only you could join the Death Eaters daydreaming about you, traitor. Well, I'm doing this for your own good." The Dark Lord said it. "Say what? The Dark Lord told you to surrender your wand. Shut up and daydream, you traitor. I'm doing this for your own good. As long as you surrender to the Dark Lord, I will guarantee you a golden ticket for prosperity and wealth." Shut up, I'm killing you on behalf of the James family, boom. What surprised Harry was that he couldn't tell which of the two people in the dream was Blake and which was Peter. No. Just then Harry was awakened suddenly by a loud cry. Not long after that, Zhang Su was woken up from the bed, and began to search for Black in the castle. Chapter 115. In the kitchen, Scarlet stood sternly in front of the corner where the black dog was previously tied. It is easy to be regarded as a coincidence or an accident for several seemingly irrelevant things to happen at the same time, but if they happen twice at the same time, no one will believe that there is no necessary connection. On the day Black appeared in Hogwarts Castle twice, he took the same black dog back to the Hogwarts kitchen, and the black dog disappeared after Black escaped. With Scarlet's IQ, it is natural to think that the black dog is probably Black. It seems that Black is also an unregistered animagus. Scarlet said to Zhang Su, who was standing aside. Zhang Su stood aside and nodded with a straight face. Seeing from the Marauder's map that Black had left the secret path under the Whomping Willow, Zhang Su entered the fishing state. Although I'm sorry for other conscientious professors, Zhang Su decided to leave this matter to Harry Potter. Just now Lupin came to ask Zhang Su for a map, but it was Zhang Su who opened the map to show him, and did not give him the chance to use administrator privileges. By the next morning, the professors again announced that Black had once again escaped from Hogwarts Castle. Early in the morning, the students discovered that the school's security forces had been strengthened. Professor Flitwick was holding a large picture of Blake and teaching every member of the Hogwarts Defender who guarded the front door to identify. Filch was suddenly scurrying up and down the corridor, cementing everything from small cracks in the walls to rat holes. The restored fat lady was guarded by a group of gruff midgets employed by the school, who walked menacingly through the corridors, muttering and comparing the size of sticks in their hands. I fell asleep and I heard things being ripped and I thought I was dreaming, you know. But then there was a draft and I woke up and one side of the curtain was torn from the bed. I rolled over, I saw him standing before me, like a skeleton, a mass of dirty hair, holding a long knife, must have been 12 inches long. He looked at me, I looked at him, and then I yelled and he ran away. In the reading room, Ron happily told Zhang Su about his experience last night. Zhang Su thought while listening. It seems that Peter is a traitor and he didn't run away. Otherwise, Black would not have gone to find Ron, the owner of Banban, but went to the bed next to him and stabbed Harry to death. After Ron finished speaking, Zhang Su answered a few words to perfunctory him, then took out the Marauder's map and handed it to Harry. "Harry, this is for you." Zhang Su said to Harry, "Fred and George wanted to give it to you a long time ago, but I borrowed it to study for a while." Harry happily took the Marauder's map, making Ron envious. Last year, the Marauder's map played a huge role in dealing with the basilisk. Harry and the others knew about the existence of the Marauder's map at that time, and the twin brothers also taught Harry how to use the map. "Ron, how is Banban now?" Zhang Su said to Ron again, "You take it to Hagrid, and don't forget to take the nutritional supplements I gave you, and let Hagrid feed it on time." Zhang Su's words made the three of Harry jump up, because after Banban was eaten by Crookshanks before, the relationship between Ron and Hermione dropped to a freezing point, which made it very difficult for Harry, who was caught between the two, to be human. Now they heard Zhang Su say that Banban was at Hagrid's place, so why wouldn't they be surprised? It means that Banban is still alive, Ron said excitedly to Zhang Su. Zhang Su pretended to be stupid and said to Ron, "Why is Banban dead? Isn't it at Hagrid's place now?" Then Zhang Su pointed to the Marauder's map in Harry's hand. After reacting, Harry immediately opened the map, and Ron and Hermione leaned their heads over. Then, the three of them found Banban's name and Hagrid's hut on the map. Overjoyed, Ron and Harry rushed out immediately, but because they violated the ban on running in the reading room, they were teleported out of the reading room by the formation on the carpet after a flash of white light. Just when Hermione wanted to go out with her, she was stopped by Zhang Su. When they came to the reading room together just now, Harry and Ron sat across from Zhang Su, but Hermione didn't want to sit with Ron, so she sat on Zhang Su's left. Hermione, who sat next to Zhang Su again, stared at Zhang Su, as if she thought about what Zhang Su was going to say next. "I thought about it last night," Zhang Su said to Hermione. "After this semester is over, I will propose to Professor McGonagall to take back the time converter." But Hermione was about to say something when Zhang Su stopped her. Zhang Su pointed to his left ear, and said to Hermione, "Did you see this? This is the result of improper use of the time converter." Hermione was taken aback when she heard it. She thought Zhang Su's ear was accidentally injured when he rescued Harry, but she didn't expect it to be the result of using the time converter. Frightened, Hermione stretched out her hand and touched Zhang Su's ear. This made Zhang Su speechless for a while. Why the first reaction was to touch his ears. He would not easily tell others about Zhang Su's travels in the long river of history, so he pushed the matter of his ear injury to the time converter, knowing that he had other experiences. Dumbledore and Madame Pomfrey didn't ask much, and they were not talkative people either. "Do you feel that your body is a little abnormal recently compared with before?" Zhang Su then said to Hermione. "Physical manifestations are fatigue, muscle and joint pain, dizziness and headache, palpitations, chest tightness, sleep disturbance, loss of appetite, sexual dysfunction, fear of cold and heat, easy to catch colds, dry eyes, etc. Psychological manifestations include depression, upset, restlessness, irritability, fear and timidity, memory loss, inability to concentrate, lack of energy, unresponsiveness, etc. The manifestations in communicating with others are that they cannot handle interpersonal relationships normally, and it is difficult to carry out normal social interactions, etc. As soon as Zhang Su finished speaking, Hermione elbowed him in the ribs. "Ah, I'm sorry, I was so busy with the endorsement that I forgot that there is one thing you don't need." Zhang Su scratched his head and said. Hermione was born in a doctor's family, plus she was almost a year older than Harry and the others, so her family members told her what she should know, and what they didn't tell her, she also saw it when she was reading at home. It's just that a boy of the same age said it so brazenly in front of her, which naturally made her very uncomfortable. So after 3 consecutive elbow strikes, Hermione chose to forgive Zhang Su's gaffe. After Hermione nodded and admitted that she had some symptoms, Zhang Su gave her a general knowledge about sub-health, which frightened Hermione for a while. In the end, under the dual concerns that using the time turner may cause physical injury and her current physical condition is in a sub-healthy state, Hermione said that she would seriously consider taking 2 less elective courses. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelists. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 116: The Undercurrent Behind the Case. It was another Hogsmeade weekend, and Hogwarts students ushered in another day of fun. And Scarlet took the newly made Animagus detector and looked around the Shrieking Shack for traces of black. In the 3 broomsticks, Zhang Su, the trio of Harry, Zhang Chu and Cedric Diggory sat at a wine table in the corner. Zhang Su and the others were listening to Cedric's talk about the just concluded hippogriff wounding case. As soon as the case was concluded, Amos Diggory, head of the Department for the Regulation and Control of Magical Creatures, sent the results of the case to his son, who was at Lady Puttiff's tea house, via the Ministry's fastest owl. After Cedric received the letter, he immediately found the trio of Zhang Su and Harry and told them the outcome of the case. The final verdict is that the hippogriff must leave Hogwarts, and someone must buy it within half a month. The person who buys it must guarantee that it will not hurt anyone again. If one of them fails, it will be executed. Cedric said to several people. How much money? Zion Aheo Harry said that he is not short of money. Someone has already bought it. Chu's father paid for it and bought it in my father's name. Usually it will be fostered at Mr. Weasley's house. Cedric said while pointing to Zhang Chu and Zhang Chu respectively. Himself and Ron, Harry, Ron, and Hermione were dumbfounded, and they couldn't figure out why there was such an operation, especially Hermione, who had made some preparations for this, suddenly found that she couldn't understand the world. Do you think it's as simple as Buckbeak hurting Malfoy? Zhang Su shook his head and said to the stunned Harry and the 3 of them. In the beginning, In order to keep Hagrid as a professor, Hogwarts had to sacrifice Buckbeak and hand it over to the Ministry of Magic. And in the Ministry of Magic, around the Buckbeak case, at first it was a struggle between Lucius Malfoy and Hagrid. Then it developed into a struggle between the Malfoy family and Hogwarts. In the end, it developed into the Malfoy family supported by some families on one side, and some other families and Hogwarts on the other side, and Buckbeak's case became a battlefield for both sides. If Buckbeak dies in the end, the Malfoy family wins. If Buckbeak survives in the end, Hogwarts wins. Cedric continued, among the families that support Hogwarts, we are the Diggory family, the Zhang family and the Weasley family, so in the end the Hippogriff will be handled by our three families together. Harry, Ron and Hermione continued to be confused, they didn't understand the world of adults. Are there many families that support Hogwarts? Harry asked. Not many, except for the Weasley family, the others are relatively small and weak families. Zhang said. Isn't your Zhang family also a powerful family? Hermione asked. Only the branch of Zhang family in England is involved. If the entire Zhang family in Huaxia gets involved, it will trigger a world war. Zhang spread his hands and said. Then Harry and Hermione looked at Ron together. The two of them always thought that the children of powerful wizard families should be like Draco Malfoy and other students of the Snake Academy, but Ron's painting style was obviously different from theirs. Don't underestimate the Weasley family, they just keep a low profile. Cedric said with a smile. Then can my Potter family join you? Harry said suddenly. As the current patriarch of the Potter family, Mr. Harry Potter, your first task is to have a large group of children after graduation and marriage, so that the Potter family can continue. Zhang said to Harry with a funny face. Harry's face was as red as Ron's hair. Zhang was stepped on severely by Zhang who was sitting beside him. So, now the wizarding family is divided into two factions. Hermione turned the subject back. It can be said that, but other than that, there are more families that are neutral. Cedric said. Why, it turned out like this. Harry asked in bewilderment. The source of the matter is that he came to Hogwarts. Cedric pointed to Zhang and said to Harry and the others, his arrival has stirred up the magical world that was originally a stagnant pool. Over the past 2 years, he has made magic. The world has seen a side of itself that has been deliberately ignoring all along, and it has also brought more benefits. Don't blame me, I just made the cake bigger. It's just that some people didn't see the enlarged cake, but only saw that the proportion of their unchanged portion has shrunk. Zhang shrugged and said. Looking at Harry and Ron who were confused, and Hermione who didn't understand, Zhang explained to them, for example, if the interests of the magic world are originally a 10-pound cake, some people share half of it, that is, a 5-pound cake. Now there is a 40-pound cake next to this cake, and the two cakes together are 50 pounds. Those people still only get the 5 pounds on the original small cake. At this time they found that they could share 50.00% of the whole cake, but now they can only share, percent. But they didn't think about how to divide the big cake, or make a new cake. They thought the only thing left is how to destroy the new cake and let everyone continue to share the previous small cakes. After the words were finished, the eyes of both Harry and Ron were about to burst into cakes, and only Hermione nodded thoughtfully. Some topics are just fine. Next, the topic quickly turned to Quidditch. Among the 6 people, there were 3 active seekers and 1 former substitute. It was not difficult to find a topic in this regard. Chatting, when everyone talked about Wood, the captain and goalkeeper of the Lions Academy team who is about to graduate this year. Ron, why don't you join the Quidditch team? Zhang suddenly said to Ron, go try to take over Wood's position. Ron himself hadn't thought about this matter, and when Zhang brought it up, his own mind also became active. Ron was a bit of a pushy person, and whenever he was the center of attention, he would go a little crazy. After all, he has been suppressed by his excellent older brothers, and even his younger sister was tricked by Zhang into becoming a chaser in the Lions Academy's Quidditch reserve team, so he himself needs to do something to prove himself. Ron himself will not let go of any opportunity to show off. It has only been a few days since Black attacked him at night that night, and he has already told him that he alone fought against Black holding a 40-meter-long knife, and finally defeated him. When Ron thought of Zhang talent for judging people, he couldn't help but feel excited. Maybe he could do it himself. Chapter 117. This dog looks delicious. I have a beautiful wish, to be able to sow the sun when I grow up, Zhang Su hummed as he left the Quidditch field with his broomstick on his shoulders. Zhang Chu and Scarlet, who could understand Chinese, kept a certain distance from him, expressing that they did not know this guy. Zhang Su looked at the two of them with a disdainful expression. How do you understand the essence of my great China nuclear explosion divine comedy? Today is the day of the match between the Eagle Academy and the Snake Academy. Zhang Su came off the bench as the goalkeeper Professor Flitwick took over the task of defending against the Dementors that he was originally responsible for. In the last game, Badger Academy scored, points against Snake Academy. On the field today, the Snake Academy team, whose morale has not yet recovered, ushered in an all-out attack from the Eagle Academy at the beginning of the game regardless of defense. When the chaser from Snake Court attacked the gate of Eagle Court, they met Zhang Su, the top-secret goalkeeper of the Eagle Court Quidditch team. Relying on his excellent motor nerves and the magical and scientific vector propulsion broom under his crotch, Zhang Su blocked all the attacks of the Snake Academy today. If it weren't for Zhang Su's shot from Xian when he was leading by, points, Xian would have 0 eggs today. In the end, Ying Yuan scored a full 300 points on Snake Yuan. After the game, the members of the Snake Academy and the Lion Academy cried. If the Lions team wants to win the championship in the end, then they must score more than 300 points in the last game against the Snakes. If the Snake Court team lost the next game, Snape would make them spend every night with reptile entrails. After the game, Zhang Su, who was in a good mood, waved his hand. Everyone will have a banquet at the Shrieking Shack tonight. He treats guests. Last time, Zhang Su posted a pair of door guards at the door of the Screaming Shack. In addition, he has a good relationship with the Dementors now. The Dementors promised that they would definitely not attack the students. As for Ravenclaw's crown, Zhang Su also showed it the last time he delivered food additives to the leader of the Dementors. The leader of the Dementors said that this lunchbox is quite novel and tastes very delicious. If there's any in the future, let Zhang Su go to Azkaban to find it. Then Zhang Su asked it if it could suck double yolk eggs and only suck one yolk. It said that this is a technical job, and ordinary Dementors can't do it, so its words are fine. In the end, Zhang Su agreed with it that he would prepare 2 boxed lunches as delicious as today as reward, and then ask it to help suck up 1 yolk of the double yolk egg. However, the matter of double yolk eggs has to be discussed with Dumbledore before it can be done. At that time, Harry and the others watched Zhang Su talking and laughing with the Dementors from a distance, and felt that their 3 views needed to be salvaged. With Zhang Su as protection, a group of students happily went to the kitchen to prepare various ingredients, and then took them to the Screaming Shack. After reporting the group action tonight with Dumbledore, Zhang Su left the principal's office. Dumbledore and the 4 deans pretended not to know about the Screaming Shack for the past 2 years. Dumbledore had his own considerations about this matter, and the 4 deans acquiesced to this matter out of trust in Dumbledore. After the students came to the Shrieking Shack, the first thing they did was to cast a magic that blocked light and sound on the walls, doors and windows, so as not to disturb the villagers of Hogsmeade later. At that time, even if you are leaning against the wall outside, you will not find any movement inside. At a time when people are panicking about Black's escape, any accident will cause trouble. As for the Dementors, besides the door guards, Zhang Su also greeted them today. After setting up the shielding magic, everyone began to clean up and rearrange the tables and chairs. No one came for more than half a year, and a lot of dust accumulated in the Screaming Shack. At this time, the advantage of the large number of people and the strength came into play. Everyone worked collectively and quickly cleaned the Screaming Shack. Then everyone was busy in the kitchen together. When the lights came on, the banquet began. The long table in the hall of the Shrieking Shack was once again filled with all kinds of delicious food, such as tender and tempting cumin lamb chops, juicy filet mignon, golden pan-fried cod, and steaming chicken stuffing cake. In addition, milk and honey cake, meringue apricot tart, rainbow mousse, coconut bread, etc. also appeared on the long table. A group of students chatted happily while stuffing delicious food into their mouths. Today's banquet is in the form of a buffet. After everyone picks up their meals, they form their own small circles in front of small tables. The most discussed topic today is Quidditch. The students of the Badger House who played the last Quidditch match were hopeless, but they also won the Snake House and the Lion House this year, which made them feel good. The students of the Eagle Academy, who scored, points on the court today, are all happy. If there is no accident, they will definitely win the cup this year. The 2 opponents in the last game, the students of the Snake Academy and the Lion Academy, have already started a fierce confrontation. The Snake Academy, which has lost 2 consecutive games, can no longer afford to lose, and they clamored that they must win the Lion Academy in the last game. The Lion Academy announced that they wanted to get, points from the Snake Academy. Zhang Su watched them laughing noisily there without saying a word, just filling his stomach. At a table near the gate, Harry's trio sat with the Weasley twins. Harry and the others listened to the twins show off what they had learned from Zhang Su. After shaving, it is best to use dry straw to burn off the tiny hairs on its body, and there is no need to peel off the skin. When singeing, you must control the heat. If the fire is too strong, the skin will be burned, and if the fire is too low, the hair roots will not be burnt off. After burning, wash it clean, and then open it up and take out the internal organs. If the internal organs are intact, the abdominal cavity is generally not rinsed with water to maintain the delicious flavor. When cutting the meat, the knife should be even, and the skin should be on the skin. Do not add water when you put it in the pot, but use warm fire to dry fry the yellow and simmer. When cooking, try to be cooked but not rotten, fragrant but not burnt. Cooked at the same time, add various spices. Before serving, sprinkle some white wine, and then pour tofu, which will make the color and taste perfect. Actually, at the time of the initial selection, I was also particular about it. According to the fur color, it can be divided into 1 black, 2 yellow, 3 flowers and 4 white. Meanwhile, Ron put Scabbers on the table and fed him peanuts while listening to the 2 brothers chatter. At this moment, the door of the Screaming Shack was knocked open with a bang, and the cold wind outside the door blew into the hall, and the bustling voices in the hall suddenly fell silent. Everyone looked towards the gate and found a big black dog barging in from the gate, looking at the students in the hall with a bewildered expression. Like this one is the tastiest. George Weasley pointed to the black dog in front of him and said to Harry and the others. Chapter 118 Lupin, luckily I came early. After dinner, Lupin came to Hagrid's hut, and he asked Hagrid to help him find some teaching aids from the Forbidden Forest. After discussing the teaching aids, Lupin chatted with Hagrid under the hospitality of Hagrid's tea and rock cakes. Lupin had a deep understanding of the power of Hagrid's rock cake, and he didn't want to eat it even if he became a werewolf. Harry and Ron came here some time ago. Hagrid quickly brought the topic to Harry and the others. Ron's pet Scabbers ran to me and hid. Ron said it was taken by Hermione's. The cat was terrified and skinny. He thought Scabbers had been eaten by Crookshanks, Hermione's cat, and the 2 of them almost broke up. The mouse was too old. There's a finger missing from the paw. I have never seen a mouse like it that has lived for more than 10 years. I've lived for more than 10 years and I'm still missing a finger. Lupin frowned, as if he had thought of something. Yes, what a poor guy. I heard from Ron that it was Percy's pet at first, and Percy gave Scabbers to Ron when he was in the 1st grade. Hagrid said to Lupin. In the following world, Lupin seemed a little uneasy, and a thought he had never had before arose in his mind, which made him shiver. Soon, Lupin found an excuse to leave Hagrid's cabin. Lupin came to the common room of the Lion Court, but he couldn't find Ron, nor Harry and Percy. When he wanted to go to Zhang Su to borrow the Marauder's map, he found that Zhang Su was also missing. While Lupin was running around looking for someone in the castle, a man who cast a disillusionment spell on himself followed him all the time. Finally, Lupin knocked on the door of Professor McGonagall's office. What happened, Lupin? Professor McGonagall asked puzzledly when he saw Lupin walk in a panic. Professor McGonagall, do you know where Harry and Ron are? Lupin asked. Professor McGonagall looked at Lupin for a moment, then replied, they should be Screaming Shack. Hearing this place, Lupin was obviously taken aback. After saying goodbye to Professor McGonagall, he hurried to the Screaming Shack. The Screaming Shack was a place Lupin knew so well, having spent those few days in every month of his 7 years at Hogwarts. On the way to the Shrieking Shack, Lupin was very worried about whether Harry and Ron would meet Black. Black knew the secret road leading to Hogwarts there, and Lupin guessed that Black sneaked into Hogwarts twice before, and it was this secret road that he took. Although he didn't know why Harry and Ron went to the Shrieking Shack, and why Professor McGonagall acquiesced in their actions, Lupin was very worried that if Black met Scabbers in the Shrieking Shack, it would cause great trouble. Just when Lupin came out from the entrance of the secret passage, he found that his brain seemed to be insufficient. Looking at the delicious food on the table in the hall, and the large group of students gathered together, Lupin couldn't understand when the Screaming Shack became a place for students to organize banquets. At this time, The students who were watching something noticed Lupin's arrival. Professor Lupin. The students greeted Lupin awkwardly. Their feast today. The meeting theoretically violated the school rules. Even if Zhang Su came forward, if he was found out, he would not be able to justify it. If Lupin were to deduct points for this incident today, the points of the 4 colleges would definitely be cleared. Why are you here, Professor Lupin? Fred Weasley, who just came out of the kitchen, greeted Lupin with a knife. It's just in time. Let's eat dog meat together later. You don't know, the dog was so fierce, it jumped on Ron as soon as it came in, and it took us a lot of effort to knock him out. Hearing Fred's greeting, Lupin walked into the hall in a daze. Lupin saw that the tables and chairs near the gate had been overturned, and that plates, cups, and various dishes and drinks had been scattered on the floor. A very familiar black dog was hung upside down in the kitchen, seemingly just passed out, with a large plate under its head. Looking at the kitchen knife in Fred's hand, Lupin seemed to think of something, and he couldn't help breaking out in cold sweat. On the chair in the hall, Ron, who was still in shock, clutched his breast pocket and looked at Lupin, who was beeping. Lupin took out a compass-like thing from his pocket. The pointer on it kept swinging between the black dog and Ron, and at the same time made a beep sound. Looking at the alarm from the animagus detector, Lupin confirmed his guess. Put him down, Fred, Lupin said to Fred. He's my friend. Okay, Professor Lupin. Fred said disappointedly. Tonight's dog feast escaped, and everyone thought it was Lupin's foster pet in Hogsmeade. If Lupin didn't show up, everyone ate and ate, but the dog owner appeared, and it was not good for everyone to eat other people's dogs in front of the owner. Everyone was relieved to see that Lupin didn't mean to deduct points. Ron, can you show me Scabbers? Lupin said, turning to Ron. Ron looked at Lupin nervously, not knowing what to do. The black dog just now was obviously aiming at Banban. If he hadn't caught Banban in time and stuffed it into his pocket, it would have been bitten to death by the black dog. Now Lupin was asking him for Scabbers again, which made him nervous. Leave Banban to him, Ron. Zhang Su, who had been eating apple pie, said to Ron, Banban has some problems. Professor Lupin won't look for him today, and I will ask you to bring him to look for him tomorrow. Mine. Zhang Su took out an animagus detector that was exactly the same as Lupin's and handed it to Ron, saying, this is a detector that can detect nearby animagus. Scabbers reacted. The stunned Ron took the detector from Zhang Su's hand and found that it was indeed sensitive to Banban in his pocket. At this moment, Scabbers jumped out of Ron's pocket and ran towards the gate. An empty beer glass suddenly appeared in front of Banban, and Banban filled it in at once, and then put it upside down on the long table. At the same time, the students let out a burst of exclamation. The black dog that Fred had just dragged out of the kitchen was turning into a grown man. A man with dirty, tangled hair hanging down to his elbows and a scruffy body stood up from the ground. Zhang Su found that it seemed that Black was not as thin as a skeleton as Ron said before, and seemed to have some flesh on his body. Chapter 119 It in number 039, S all tied up. It's serious Black. I don't know who was the first to recognize Black. As soon as the shot sounded, all the little wizards present took out their wands and pointed at Black. Zhang Su raised his left hand above his head and made a gesture, and the surrounding students formed a circle to surround Black and Lupin. Calm down, things don't seem to be as simple as you think. Zhang Su patted Harry on the shoulder and said to him. After listening to Zhang Su's words, Harry took a few deep breaths to calm down his excitement, and put down the hand that was about to cast a spell on Black just now. At this time, Black also calmed down. During this period of time, he encountered too many accidents. He was almost boiled 3 times, and he was taken in by kind people during the period, which was enough to restore his confused head. You killed my parents, Harry said in a trembling voice, raising his wand at the same time. I don't deny that. Black said to Harry very calmly. At this moment, there was a bang from behind the onlookers. The end of the wand in Snape's hand, who had lifted the disillusionment charm, erupted with snake-like bands, and automatically wrapped around Black's mouth, wrists and ankles. Black lost his balance and fell to the floor, unable to move. Just now when Lupin was looking for someone in Hogwarts Castle, he was discovered by Snape. Snape, who always thought that there was something wrong with Lupin, followed Lupin quietly. Revenge is sweet. Snape walked up to Black and said to him, How I wish I was the one who caught you. Those Dementors around Hogsmeade, they will see you very happy, Blake. I dare say I'd give you a little kiss. The sudden appearance of Snape surprised everyone, and Lupin and Black became nervous when they saw that he was going to find the Dementors. Severus, you're wrong. It's not Sirius, it's him. Lupin said eagerly, pointing to the beer mug on the table. Don't you think your excuse is poor? Snape said to Lupin. A scrawny rat, you think it's the murderer. He is Peter Pettigrew, an animagus that has never been registered. Lupin said, pointing at Scabbers. Lupin's words caused an uproar among the onlookers. This year, because of Black's escape from prison, the story of Peter Pettigrew was also reported back then, so they all knew the meaning of Lupin's words. The most surprised were Harry and Ron. In the Three Broomsticks before, Zhang-Su guessed that Peter Pettigrew was not dead, which made Harry excited for a while. Harry couldn't help but imagine Peter Pettigrew as something like Lupin. As a result, Lupin now told him that Peter Pettigrew not only became a mouse and lived with him for 3 years, but most importantly, he was also the murderer who caused the death of his parents. And Ron's head was still in chaos at this time. The pet that had lived in his home for many years was actually an animagus, and it was Peter Pettigrew, which made his head unable to function. I think you'd better think about your life after you arrived in Azkaban. You helped Black sneak into Hogwarts twice, and the third time you happened to meet students who were holding a banquet and were arrested. Sneh said Pooh, pointing his wand at Lupin. The surrounding students heard Snape say that Lupin helped Black infiltrate Hogwarts the first 2 times, and all pointed their wands at Lupin. Zhang-Su didn't want Snape to take the rhythm down like this, so he said to him, Professor Snape, whether this mouse is Peter Pettigrew or not, it is certain that he is an animagus. I think let's let him change back to the prototype. I don't think there is any need to do this, Snape said, staring at Zhang-Su. Zhang-Su finally understood that Snape wanted to take this opportunity to kill Black and bring Lupin along with him. Black almost killed Snape back then. If Harry's father hadn't rescued him, the grass on Snape's grave would be 2 meters high now. From Snape's point of view, it was impossible not to take revenge. From Zhang-Su's standpoint, he didn't mind at all if Snape wanted to take revenge. No matter whether Snape used the forgiveness curse to leave Black's whole body, or Shenfeng Wuang cut it into several pieces, it was all to Zhang-Su. It doesn't matter. Black lured Snape to find Lupin, who turned into a werewolf. In his own opinion, he just thought it was fun, but in fact he underestimated the harm caused by his behavior, or didn't even think about what he would do harm. It's like a child upstairs who thought it was fun to throw things downstairs, so he kept throwing beer bottles from the top of the building downstairs, without thinking about the consequences of hitting someone in the community where the author lived. He almost killed a motorcycle rider. Fortunately, the motorcycle rider was wearing a motorcycle helmet with a foam layer inside. If Harry's father hadn't been sensible and had arrived in time to rescue Snape, otherwise not only the weeds on Snape's grave, but also the graves of Black and Lupin in Azkaban would have to be weeded. An NBSP, but on the other hand, if Snape takes revenge now, then Voldemort's other Horcrux will not be available, which is quite difficult for Zhang-Su to accept. I think it's necessary. At this moment, a dignified voice came from the door of the Screaming Shack. Scarlet, who was holding a wand, came to the Shrieking Shack at some point. Ignoring Snape with a cold face, Scarlet went straight to the beer mug with Scabbers on it, staring at the shivering Scabbers under the mug. Snape wanted to say something, but stopped as soon as he opened his mouth. He couldn't afford to offend the person in front of him, so he decisively followed his heart. Professor Scarlet. Before Lupin finished speaking, Scarlet turned around, a spell knocked him down, and then conjured a rope to bind him firmly. I'll give you a chance to talk, but not now, Scarlet said, looking at Lupin and Black, who were tied up on the ground. Then Scarlet removed Scabbers' beer mug, and a blue-white light from his wand hit Scabbers. After a while, Banban was suspended in the air, his body writhing crazily. When it fell to the floor, there was another blinding flash, and then a head appeared on the ground, with limbs sticking out, and a moment later, a man stood where Scabbers had been, wincing and writhing hands. Seeing that the mouse really turned into a wizard, the surrounding students exclaimed, and Ron, Harry, and Hermione even shouted. When Lupin and Black, who were tied up, saw this man, they squirmed excitedly. They wanted to shout something, but their mouths were tied up with ropes, and they could only make a woo-woo sound. Peter Pettigrew, Scarlet asked, staring at the wizard. It's me, Peter answered in a high-pitched voice. Scarlet didn't reply. Just like he did with Lupin, he used a spell to knock Peter down and make a rope to bind him tightly. Take them all back to Hogwarts, to the Whomping Willow, Scarlet said to the surrounding students. Seeing this, Snape walked into the secret passage back to Hogwarts without looking back. Seeing this, the other students also used the levitating charm to lower the three of them into the secret passage. Before Harry left, he looked at Scarlet and Zhang Su, and Zhang Su gave him a reassuring look. In the end, only Zhang Su and Scarlet were left in the screaming shack. Zhang Su tugged on Scarlet's sleeve. "What's wrong with you today?" Zhang Su asked. Just now he felt that there was something wrong with Scarlet's state. Usually, she was not so irritable, and she would not cast a spell on a disagreement. "It's fine," Scarlet said, "don't worry." Scarlet said so, Zhang Su couldn't continue to ask. Half an hour later, the Whomping Willow was surrounded by people. The lighting magic of the students illuminated the surroundings like daylight. On the trunk of the Whomping Willow, Lupin, Blake, and Peter were tightly bound, and the branches of the Whomping Willow kept passing in front of them. On the side of the Whomping Willow, Dumbledore, the four deans and other professors stood outside the range of the Whomping Willow branches flying. Standing beside the professors were the Minister of Magic Fudge, who had just arrived, and his confidants. They all had serious expressions on their faces. Harry stood at the front, with Scarlet next to him saying something to him. Scarlet said to Harry, "One of the characteristics of Whomping Willow is to press and hold the knots on its branches for more than 1 minute, and at the same time pour some special potion on its trunk, so that it can distinguish the knots tied to the branches. Whether the person on its trunk is telling the truth or a lie. If he is telling the truth, the Whomping Willow will not attack him. If he is telling a lie, then the Whomping Willow will attack him. Then it's your time." Scarlet patted Harry on the shoulder and said, "Just ask about what happened back then." Zhang Su came to Dumbledore and Fudge, and asked them, "Professor Dumbledore, Mr. Minister, does this method of distinguishing whether you are telling a lie or not work?" Fudge nodded and said, "This method is one of the lie detection methods approved by the Ministry of Magic. In the previous materials of the Ministry of Magic, there are many examples of successful lie detection using this method." Dumbledore also followed up and said, "It's just that 100 years ago, the method of making the potion required to use this method has been lost in the market. I didn't expect that the Scarlet family still kept the method of making this potion." Zhang Su heard the two big men say that this method works, so he took out snacks and watched the excitement. At first Peter wanted to tell Harry that he was wronged, but he was pulled by a branch of the Whomping Willow to tell the truth. The final result was not as Zhang Su expected. Just like in the story, Harry's father and his godfather were playing tricks, and ended up playing with their own life. Chapter 120 Voldemort unknowingly falls again. The truth about the betrayal of the Potters was surfaced with the help of Whomping Willow. Black's grievances were also resolved under the auspices of the Minister of Magic, Fu Qingshan. The honor originally awarded to Peter Pettigrew was transferred to Black, and he also received a sum of compensation. Peter Pettigrew was finally brought back to Azkaban by the Dementors, and Zhang Su did not get rid of the goo worms on him as his subordinates. He will die in Azkaban due to weakness a month later if food additives are added. It may be over in half a month. Harry Potter was finally able to fall into the arms of his godfather, but unfortunately he couldn't move in with Black until he was 17. When Harry asked if Black gave the broomstick at Christmas, Black shook his head and said that although he wanted to give Harry the best broomstick, he was being chased by someone at that time. Had to hide and hide, unable to give Harry a present. This made Zhang Su on the side look confused. Could it be that the broomstick was really given by Cao? Because of Blake's current poor health, he needs to go to the school infirmary to receive treatment from Madame Pomfrey, so the relevant people and the onlookers dispersed after Pettigrew Peter was taken away. There was enough happening tonight for them to talk about it for a long time. After returning to the castle, Zhang Su did not return to the dormitory, but came to a door. "Quick, send bag." Zhang Su read out the password to open the door. This is a professor's dormitory. The entrance is a living room, and behind the two doors are the study and the living room with a separate bathroom. There are many rooms with a good environment in Hogwarts Castle, and the dormitories allocated to professors are very comfortable. Zhang Su also got a dormitory, but he seldom lives there. He basically uses that dormitory as a laboratory. He usually prefers to live in the student dormitory of Eagle Academy. Seeing that there was no one in the living room and study, Zhang Su gently pushed open the door of the living room. Tonight is the 15th day of the lunar calendar, the last Saturday in March 1994, and it will be Easter soon. The bright moonlight shines into the living room through the balcony door. There is a small round table on the balcony with a bottle of red wine and an empty wine glass on it. There were 2 chairs facing the balcony on both sides of the round table, and Scarlet, who was wearing a white nightgown, was sitting on one of the chairs with a glass of red wine. Zhang Su sat on the chair, and Scarlet poured red wine into his glass. After clinking glasses, the two took a sip of red wine and fell into silence. After Scarlet learned that Zhang Su was going to find her in her dormitory tonight, she thought she would open her mouth to tease him like before, but when Zhang Su sat in front of her, she suddenly found that she lost interest, recalling that her temper in recent days seemed to be much more irritable than before. She felt that it would not be that simple for Zhang Su to find her tonight. Zhang Su didn't speak either. He just took off his watch and put it on the table, pushing it in front of Scarlet. Scarlet saw that Zhang Su's watch no longer displayed the time, but a red arrow appeared, pointing to his chest. Scarlet took Zhang Su's watch and changed positions a few times, only to find that the red arrow on the watch was pointing at her chest. Scarlet cast a questioning look at Zhang Su. She did not believe that Zhang Su would come to her with a detector at night. "This is the Horcrux detector," Zhang Su said to Scarlet. After Dongya sent the Horcrux detector to Zhang Su never used it except for using it on Harry once, and usually put it away. Today, Zhang Su used it as a watch because he needed to check the time because he was going to hold a banquet at the Screaming Shack. As a result, when Scarlet appeared tonight, the Horcrux detector in Zhang Su's hand responded. That's why Zhang Su came to Scarlet's dormitory tonight. After hearing Zhang Su's words, Scarlet's expression changed, and she immediately opened the neckline of her nightgown, and pulled out a necklace from her chest. A ring inlaid with black gemstones hung on the necklace. Marveligant's ring, one of Voldemort's Horcruxes, with Scarlet's after-bath scent on it. After Zhang Su checked the ring, he finally confirmed that it was Voldemort's Horcrux. As for why it appeared on Scarlet's chest, Scarlet's explanation is very simple. As a descendant of Slytherin, there are not 1 or 2 heirlooms left by Slytherin in the family, so Scarlet, after returning from China during the Christmas holiday, she went to Gaunt's old house to try her luck. As a result, she found this ring protected by the powerful magic set by Voldemort in the ruins of Gaunt's old house. After discovering the precious ring, Scarlet wore it close to her body with a necklace. After listening to Scarlet's narration, Zhang Su couldn't help feeling dizzy. Because in addition to being Voldemort's Horcrux, this ring was also cursed by Voldemort, so Dumbledore lost his right hand. And wearing a Horcrux for a long time, people's thinking will be affected by the Horcrux. In the end, just like using a Horcrux notebook, the soul is swallowed by the soul fragments in the Horcrux. When Zhang Su got the Ravenclaw crown, he still dared to put it in the treasure bag because he had a lot of armor on his body, and the painting style of his soul was different from the soul of this world. After Zhang Su told Scarlet all about the Horcrux, she was frightened into a cold sweat and drank a glass of red wine to suppress her shock. After Zhang Su said that he had a way to deal with the soul fragments in the ring, Scarlet was relieved. Then there was another silence. The two of them were drinking alone for a while. Each was thinking about the Horcrux, and lost interest in talking. After Zhang Su drank the red wine in his glass, he planned to say goodbye and leave. "Not long after I got this ring, I often had the same dream," Scarlet said suddenly. Zhang Su was taken aback when he heard this. For some reason, Scarlet, who hadn't talked much all night, suddenly entered the I have stories and wine mode, so he poured himself a glass of red wine. "Since you have dumplings and vinegar, let's eat together. I dreamed that I gave birth to 2 daughters, the eldest named Remilia, and the second named Flander," Scarlet said, looking at the full moon in the sky. Zhang Su on the side was glad that he didn't drink, otherwise he would definitely spit out a mouthful of wine at this time. Regardless of the stunned Zhang Su on the side, Scarlet continued, "Maybe I also long to be a mother. I used to think how great it would be if I had 2 daughters. At that time you asked me without those 2, I subconsciously felt that if I had daughters, they should be named like that. This is probably the fragment of Voldemort's soul in this ring that is tempting me," Scarlet said with a wry smile and shook her head. After finishing speaking, Scarlet gulped down the remaining half bottle of red wine. Zhang Su sat on a chair, slowly drinking the red wine in the glass. Perhaps this is the distress of being an empty nester older youth. In his previous life, he almost stepped into this rank, and in this life he bid farewell to this rank. For a moment he didn't know what to say. After Zhang Su finished his glass of wine, he turned his head and found that Scarlet had fallen asleep, sitting on a chair reeking of alcohol. Zhang Su had no choice but to carry her into the room and put her on the bed, covered her with a quilt and left. As soon as he walked out of the door of Scarlet's dormitory, Zhang Su saw that Black and Lupin, who were supposed to be lying on the hospital bed in the school infirmary, were using their wands to cast a spell on the wall opposite the dormitory door. A large area of occupation had already appeared on the wall. There are heart-shaped red roses all over the wall, and now the two of them are adding decorations around the roses. With a snap, Black stared dumbfounded at Zhang Su, who came out of Scarlet's dormitory in the middle of the night, reeking of alcohol, and the wand he got from somewhere fell to the ground. Lupin looked at Black helplessly and shook his head. Zhang Su didn't care about these two guys who died all night, nodded his head as a greeting, and went back to the dormitory. Sure enough, Zhang Su, who didn't get up until noon the next day, heard that Lupin and Black, two good brothers who were in trouble together, were tied to the Whomping Willow again this morning. Chapter 121 Werewolf Ever No Be Slave. With the resolution of the Black incident, the Dementors around Hogwarts also evacuated, so fast that even Zhang Su was in vain looking for them to deliver lunch. After Scarlet knew that the ring was a Horcrux, and that the Dementors could solve the problem of the Horcrux without damage, she temporarily handed over the ring to Zhang Su. As for the curse on the ring, it shouldn't have much impact on the Dementors. Just think of asking for stones when eating, Zhang Su thought. In the days that followed, the students regained their former vigor, which surprised Blake, who had been away from Hogwarts for many years. Now Black is still living in the school infirmary, lying on the hospital bed during the day, and Harry delivers 3 meals a day after dinner. There was a 2-hour relaxation time, and he also went out for a walk with Harry every day, telling Harry about the glorious past between himself and Harry's father. Through Harry's retelling, Zhang Su knew that after Black entered Hogwarts Castle for the second time, he faced Scarlet's pursuit, and he ran to Hogwarts as a stray dog in Hogsmeade. Squib and werewolf there, he was adopted by Madame Pomfrey for a while. Black also sent a job application to Dumbledore and Madame Pomfrey, to manage the medical point after he got well enough to prevent it from being closed when Madame Pomfrey was in the Hogwarts infirmary. Another thought of Black is naturally to create opportunities to be with Harry. Finally Dumbledore agreed to Black's request. The time soon came to Easter, and Hogwarts students experienced a holiday full of homework. After the Easter holiday, there was a Quidditch match between the Lion's Court and the Snake Court. The Snake Court team, which had lost 2 games in a row, and the Lion Court team, which was trying to create a miracle at the last moment, played very fiercely, whether it was playing or playing players. The Snake Court team, which was fighting to the death, showed a murderous spirit during the game, and all players on both sides were injured on the court. Even Draco Malfoy was hit by Harry and fell from the air to the stands when he was preventing Harry Potter from competing for the Golden Snitch. The bloody Malfoy picked up the broom beside him and returned to the stand regardless of the blood on his face. This guy continued to disturb Harry with a broom not dominant. Malfoy insisted that Harry failed to catch the snitch 4 times before spotting the snitch first. In the end, when Harry caught the snitch, the Lion Court was only, points ahead of the Snake Court. In this way, time passed in every corner of Hogwarts, and quietly came to the last Hogsmeade week of this school year. Because today is the last Hogsmeade week for the 7th-year graduates in their student careers, the gate-controlled time for returning to Hogwarts has been relaxed to 10 o'clock in the evening. Zhang Su was wandering casually in Hogsmeade. He had just come out of the Pig's Head bar. The latest transaction between their family and Ma's house had been completed, and the goods ordered from Ma's house had also been delivered through special channels. Zhang Su strolled to Hogwarts Squib and Werewolf treatment site in Hogsmeade, and saw that Black, who was working here, was sending out a wizard who had just received Squib treatment. Since Black saw Zhang Su coming out of Scarlet's dormitory that night, he has been hostile to Zhang Su, but Zhang Su didn't even bother to talk to him. Black misunderstood the relationship between Zhang Su and Scarlet. Zhang Su didn't explain anything to him. Zhang Su didn't know him well, and Scarlet was not interested in him. This is all Blake's own sentimentality. Zhang Su walked up to the 2nd floor, and the pressure cooker boiling the Elune potion in several rooms was sizzling. Tonight is the night of the full moon, and the werewolves waiting for treatment have already settled down in Hogsmeade. At that time, Snape will bring a few senior students to make the final potion for them. Zhang Su came to Madame Pomfrey's office and asked about the stock of some medicinal materials, some of which were provided by Zhang Su's family. As all the werewolves who came to the treatment a few months ago were cured, more werewolves came to the treatment now, and the wolves who were interested in treatment. People also wrote to ask about the situation. As more and more werewolves are cured, The number of werewolves coming for treatment will explode in the foreseeable future. This has led to the obvious shortage of the scale of the current treatment point and the stock of medicinal materials. Dumbledore has already considered expanding this place, or changing it to a bigger place. Madame Pomfrey gave Zhang Su a large list of medicinal materials, which are urgently needed at present. Werewolves have always been a nightmare existence in the magical society, and werewolves are regarded as a great shame in the magical society. Werewolves often lose their minds after transforming on a full moon night, and Snape almost died at the hands of Lupin because of this. Many werewolves who don't want to hurt others will go to the middle of nowhere before the full moon, or lock themselves in a sturdy house to survive their transformation. If someone is bitten by a transformed werewolf, they will be infected and become a werewolf. Moreover, the magic resistance of werewolves is much higher than that of ordinary wizards, and the effect of magic spells on them will shrink, making it very difficult for wizards to deal with them. Out of the fear of the danger and contagion of werewolves have always been hostile and discriminated against by the folk and the government in the magical society, which made them incompatible with mainstream society. It can be seen in life. Immorat Picardy once wrote a book about werewolves called Lawless Wolves, Why Werewolves Don't Deserve to Live, in which the author declares that even werewolves in human form are lawless and immoral. Although this statement is wrong, it also represents the views of some people who fear and lack understanding of werewolves. Within the Beasts Office of the Department of Magical Creatures Regulation and Control, at the Ministry of Magic, there is a department called the Werewolf Register, which manages and maintains the Werewolf Register of all known werewolves in Great Britain. The British Ministry of Magic once formulated a series of werewolf codes of conduct that listed werewolf responsibilities in 1637, but this code of conduct ultimately failed because no one signed it. The werewolves who suffered from dual hostility and discrimination from the people and the government have always lived in hardship. Most of them did not become werewolves voluntarily, and they also yearn for a normal life. It's just that the medicines for treating werewolves that have appeared for a long time are either medicaments that treat the symptoms but not the root cause, or they are simply counterfeit medicines. Now werewolves have a chance to be cured, and this opportunity comes from Hogwarts, a famous British magic school, not a small advertisement on the wall in any corner of Diagon Alley, which makes countless families who are troubled by werewolves be ecstatic with the individual. But not all werewolves want to be cured. There is a group of werewolves who hope to one day create enough werewolves to rule the wizarding world. This is an army of werewolves led by Fenrir Greyback, who make it their mission to bite and infect as many people as possible. Fenrir Greyback could have imagined that after Hogwarts launched Elm that could cure werewolves, the number of werewolves would inevitably decrease, which undoubtedly dug their foundation. The desperate Fenrir Greyback decided to put all his eggs in one basket and launched a terrorist attack on Hogwarts treatment point in Hogsmeade in an attempt to warn those werewolves who were eager to get treatment to give up treatment. It's just that because of Black's escape, Hogsmeade was surrounded by patrolling Dementors, which forced Fenrir Greyback to postpone his plan. So on the night of the full moon after the Dementors withdrew, Fenrir Greyback realized that the time had come, so he led his men to sneak into the vicinity of Hogsmeade, and launched an attack after the full moon climbed up. Looking at the werewolves rushing from a distance, Zhang Su, who was having a barbecue with Harry and a few friends on a grassy field outside Hogsmeade, reluctantly ate the kebab in his hand, and popped out. After the wand released a signal representing an emergency into the sky, he took out the 811 automatic rifle from the treasure bag, replaced it with a steel core bullet, and started shooting at the werewolves in the distance. Chapter 122 The Werewolf Attacks. Since ancient times, the timing, location, harmony, IQ, and luck are all indispensable for success. The sad thing about Fenrir Greyback is that he had nothing tonight. Although today is a full moon, choosing this time to strike is beneficial to the werewolves. But tonight is also the last day for Hogwarts graduates to visit Hogsmeade as students. Except for the 7th grade students in Hogsmeade, almost all Hogwarts professors are here tonight. Although Hogwarts does not have traditions such as appreciation banquet, it is normal to invite the professor who has taught him for many years to drink for the last time as a student. Where Hogsmeade was located, there were no woods around which the werewolves could approach in secret. They had to pass through a large open area, so there was no surprise to launch a surprise attack. Many of the students in Hogsmeade tonight have participated in the Battle of the Basilisk, and even more students have participated in the practice of magic battles in the Room of Requirement every Saturday night. The students have been greatly improved in morale and technology. A great improvement. The good students also complained that this year's black is not good enough, and there is no chance for them to make a big difference. Not to mention the professors in the bar, there are no parallel imports among the professors this year, all of them can be played. Fenrir Greyback's command ability was also worrying. If they sneaked into Hogsmeade during the day, or quietly approached the target at night, it might be possible under a sudden attack. If there were werewolves who had entered the medical point in the name of treatment early in the morning, Snape might have been caught in their hands if they made a sudden attack. As a result, when a group of werewolves transformed in the distance tonight, the howling of wolves could be heard far away, and then rushed towards Hogsmeade, howling. What was even more unlucky for the werewolves was that on their attack route, a group of people were having a barbecue, and among the people participating in the barbecue, there was Zhang Su, who had a distinctive style of painting. Under the moonlight of the full moon at night, people can clearly see that the object is not far away, and only a black shadow that is much larger than a normal person can be seen moving 200 or 300 meters away. But their shouts betrayed their identities. Such a group of werewolves rushed over at night. They definitely didn't go to Madame Podife's tea house for tea. So Zhang Su decisively sent a signal to warn, and then took out the 8-1 bar and started to do it. Crispy mages face werewolves with high agility, high magic resistance, high physical defense, high physical attack and thick blood. The best way to deal with them is to keep a distance and then focus fire to kill them. Since the range of the spell is not far, Zhang Su can only use hot weapons to face the werewolves more than 200 meters away. Although there are no special weapons such as silver bullets that can deal with werewolves, the power of steel core bullets is not something that werewolves can resist with their bodies. The only shortcoming is that Zhang Su's shooting level is still a bit poor. When the werewolves rushed more than 100 meters away, he only knocked down 2 or 3 werewolves, but he also slowed down the pace of the werewolves. Facing the werewolves rushing at high speed, the little wizards turned their heads and ran away, giving each other their backs. Zhang Su could only take out the 2 broomsticks he used to use from his treasure bag while shooting, and threw them to Harry and Ron respectively, letting them run from the sky with the others. After watching Harry take Daphne Greengrass and Ernie Macmillan, and Ron take Hermione and Justin Finch together into the air, Zhang Su took out his fake Exoter life staff and mobilized last stored mana, turning the small grass on the large grassland in front of him into dark black sharp thorns. An NBSP, the werewolf rushing to the front accidentally stepped on the thorns, and fell to the ground when his feet hurt up. Seeing several werewolves rushing towards him, Zhang Su put away his staff, took out the vector propulsion broomstick and flew away with a whoosh. The few werewolves on the ground who rushed over with blood on their feet were suddenly dumbfounded. Seeing that Zhang Su also flew up, Harry and Ron, who had sent the man to a safe place and flew back to meet Zhang Su, breathed a sigh of relief. Harry and the others brought news about Hogsmeade, and after receiving Zhang Su's warning, the Hogwarts students all responded quickly. In the short time that Zhang Su gained, everyone gathered all the residents of Hogsmeade and set up a line of defense on Central Avenue. Zhang Su returned to Hogsmeade Street together with Harry and Ron. The two ends of the street and all the alleys were blocked with sundries and things conjured by transfiguration, and there were people guarding every alley. In a place in the middle of the street, there was a table surrounded by Professor McGonagall and other Hogwarts professors, Percy and other male and female students' union chairmen and several prefects, and several locals including Aberforth Dumbledore. Residents, this is the temporary headquarters for tonight. How is the situation now? Zhang Su asked Professor McGonagall. The werewolf army is here. There are hundreds of werewolves. They have surrounded Hogsmeade and are about to attack. Professor McGonagall said, all the people in Hogsmeade are gathered here. The support of the Ministry of Magic needs. It'll be over half an hour later. Where's the medical point? Zhang Su asked again. When the news was received, the patients had just received treatment, and now they are all arranged in the 3 broomsticks bar. Professor McGonagall said. Zhang Su used the stones on the ground to conjure up some 4-cornered thorns, and handed them to the nearby prefects. Find something and use transfiguration to turn it into this, and sprinkle it outside the barricade. It's best to add the illusion spell. I tried it just now and it works. Several prefects left with 4-pointed spikes. Zhang Su said to Aberforth Dumbledore again, Sir, please collect as many broomsticks as Hogsmeade can collect, and gather them here. Aberforth Dumbledore, who didn't know Zhang Su, looked at Professor McGonagall, turned and left after Professor McGonagall nodded. Let all the players of the Quidditch team and the players who are good at flying broomsticks come and gather," Zhang Su said to Percy, who was beside him. Percy nodded, and went to gather his men. The action efficiency of everyone was very high. 10 minutes later, Aberforth Dumbledore brought 30 or 40 broomsticks, and Percy brought the students with the best flying skills to gather. Zhang Su asked the students to receive their broomsticks while arranging tasks for them. "We have to hold out for more than half an hour before we can wait for reinforcements from the Ministry of Magic. We have a disadvantage compared to werewolves on the ground. Our speed is not as fast as them, our strength is not as strong as theirs, and the effect of our spells will be weakened. But there is one advantage that werewolves don't have, that is, we can fly. Everyone in a group, attack werewolves in the sky. Don't ask everyone to kill them, just restrain them, so that they can't concentrate on attacking roadblocks. Don't stop in the sky, come down, keep your height, beware of werewolves attacking you from the roofs, and watch what they throw. If you are in danger, signal for help." If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelis. There you'll find the original version of this story, and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 123 Giant Pandas Dawn in number 039, T show off the power. Do you really think I am number 039, am Hello Kitty? Turtle son Draco Malfoy, who has accidentally pulled off his broomstick by a werewolf ambush on the roof because he was flying too low, was about to be gnawed by the werewolf wall. Zhang Su, who came to rescue him, the robe turned into a big turtle shell that filled Malfoy's whole body, and the werewolf who gnawed on it broke a tooth. After finishing the werewolf with a volley of bullets, Malfoy emerged from the turtle's shell in his underwear, and flew back into the sky on the broomstick that had been left aside. After Zhang Su undid the spell on Malfoy's robe, he used the flying curse to get the robe back and threw it back to Malfoy. Zhang Su's main task now is to rely on the speed of his broom to rescue in the air. When he sees a student who is unfortunately pulled off the ground, he immediately rushes over. For the students who were dragged to the ground by werewolves, Zhang Su couldn't use offensive spells. After all, he was not a special force of a certain country, so he could just deal with the hostages and prisoners together. He can only use the tortoise shell technique to turn the robes of the trapped students into huge turtle shells that can hold people in, and then try to rescue the students after cleaning up the werewolves around them. Just after saving Malfoy, Zhang Su heard a girl screaming. Zhang Su saw Daphne, who was eating barbecue with him not far ahead, was grabbed by her ankle by a werewolf who jumped from the roof and pulled her off the flying sky broom. Seeing this, Zhang Su rushed over immediately. He saw that Daphne was already lying on the ground without moving. The werewolf who tore her off seemed to have fallen himself, a little unconscious. There were several werewolves rushing here in the distance. Come. As usual, Zhang Su used the tortoise shell technique to protect Daphne first, and after finishing the werewolf next to her, under the cover of other students in the sky, Zhang Su risked landing and dragged Daphne in underwear out of the turtle shell. Seeing that Daphne had been thrown unconscious, Zhang Su had no choice but to stuff her back into the tortoise shell, used the levitation spell to lift her and the tortoise shell into the air, dragged her with a rope behind the broomstick and sent her back to Central Avenue. Zhang Su, who returned to the sky, summoned the students in the sky and rearranged new tactics for them. Soon, the students took their own groups as a unit and flew a laughably circle around Hogsmeade Central Street in the air. When the first group of students descended to attack the werewolves, they first notified the team behind to cover, and the team in charge of the cover was responsible for monitoring the surrounding roofs from the air to see if there were werewolves ambushing. Soon, after foiling several werewolf attempts to sneak up on students from the roof, no werewolf dared to go on the roof again. Thanks to the containment in the air, the pressure on the ground is relieved. When werewolves gathered to storm the barricade, the students behind the barricade on the ground gave a signal, and soon a cloud of spells, bullets and even grenades would rain down from the air. Then there is no more then. Although the werewolves had high magic resistance, they couldn't withstand the students' magic spells, not to mention that there is another style of painting mixed in with the spell. Except for a few lucky and powerful werewolves, all the werewolves lay down. Those who slipped through the net either dispersed or were handed over to those on the ground. The werewolves couldn't concentrate enough to attack the barricade, and a small number of werewolves would not cause too much harm to the students and professors behind the barricade. If Fenrir Greyback met Saddam in the future, Fenrir Greyback would hand him a cigarette, and then the two shook their heads and sighed in the smoke. 2 or 10 minutes after the battle started, reinforcements arrived. Professor McGonagall's patroness found Dumbledore immediately after returning to Hogwarts. Dumbledore, who received the news, came to Hogsmeade with a BIU apparition. Dumbledore's arrival greatly boosted the morale of the students on the street and the residents of Hogsmeade, and cheers rang through the sky for a while. Immediately afterwards, Fudge, the chief magician, rushed over with Rufus Scrimgeour, the director of the Auror office, and some other Aurors. It wasn't long before dozens of students who remained at Hogwarts joined the fray on the broomsticks used by the school's Quidditch team and flying lessons. With the arrival of many reinforcements, people sounded the clarion call for a counterattack. Werewolves can't stop by Hogwarts students. Hogsmeade, the coalition formed by the residents of Germany and the Aurors of the Ministry of Magic, chose to flee after seeing that the situation was over. Just when everyone drove the werewolf army out of Hogsmeade, and Dumbledore took a few professors and students, together with Fudge and the Aurors, to chase remnant bravery out of Hogsmeade, a 2-meter-tall werewolf suddenly jumped out of the window on the second floor of a house on the side of the street, and rushed towards a little girl who was resting by the roadblock. Fenrir Greyback lurks after Dumbledore's arrival, approaching Central Avenue under the cover of the house, and he dares not come out until Dumbledore leaves to chase the fleeing werewolf. When Fenrir Greyback was about to hit the target, a black and white animal suddenly appeared in front of his eyes, and then he felt a heavy blow to his jaw, and finally he flew upside down. Just now, when Zhang Su came down from the sky to find a place to rest, he saw Fenrir Greyback behind the upstairs window, staring at the students and Scarlet who were resting by the barricade downstairs special. Zhang Su rushed over immediately, turned into an animagus on the way, and then gas-heavy knocked the werewolf from upstairs to the side. After the war, Scarlet, who was relaxing and sitting by the barricade, was startled by the huge movement beside her. Turning her head, she saw a 2-meter-tall bear that could only take black and white photos for the rest of her life, but could not take color photos. A small creature stood beside her, and a werewolf lay not far away. Just when Scarlet was about to cast a spell on Fenrir Greyback, the giant panda next to her pulled out a wooden stick as thick as an adult's arm from the barricade and stretched it out in front of her. Turned it into steel. Panda Zhang said to Scarlet. Hearing that the giant panda was speaking Chinese, Scarlet, who recognized Zhang Su, immediately transformed the wooden stick into a steel stick with transfiguration. After seeing Fenrir Greyback get up from the ground, Zhang Panda swung his stick and rushed towards the werewolf who was much taller than him. Fenrir Greyback pounced on Panda Zhang with his mouth open, but Panda Zhang didn't dodge, and slapped his long face with a stick. When the steel rod in Zhang Panda's hand hit Fenrir Greyback's face, there was a loud bang, which made many onlookers twitch. Next, a wolf and a panda started fighting. Fenrir Greyback wanted to jump up and bite Panda Zhang, but he was either blocked by Panda Zhang with a steel stick in his hand, or Scarlet behind Panda Zhang gave Fenrir Greyback a cold blow when he was about to bite, overcoming a spell. When he was slowed down by the spell, Zhang Panda, who had adjusted himself, raised the stick in his hand and smashed it across the head. When Zhang Panda swung his stick at Fenrir Greyback just wanted to dodge, but Scarlet cast another spell to slow down his movement, and the stick in Zhang Panda's hand hit him on the forehead. When Fenrir Greyback tried to bypass Zhang Panda and pounce on Scarlet, Zhang Panda tried his best to stop him due to injury. With a more and more tacit cooperation between Zhang Panda and Scarlet, Fenrir Greyback was beaten until he began to doubt his life. Facing the hopeless situation, Fenrir Greyback began to think about escaping. Just as Fenrir Greyback turned and fled suddenly, Scarlet swung his wand and cast a spell on his legs free. Then Fenrir Greyback landed a solid flat. A wolf has a copper head and an iron back and a numb waist, but whether a werewolf is like this, Zhang Panda is not too sure. He only knows that Fenrir Greyback's head is quite resistant to beatings, and after being beaten several times, he is not at all fainting. The meaning of. Looking at Fenrir Greyback lying on the ground, Zhang Panda raised the somewhat deformed steel rod in his hand, and greeted him vigorously on his waist. Seeing Zhang Panda smashing and stomping on Fenrir Greyback's waist, many onlookers felt a little pain in their waists. When Dumbledore, Fudge and the others captured all the escaped members of the werewolf army, what they saw was Fenrir Greyback, whose hands, feet and long face were tied up, lying on the ground dying. At this moment, Zhang Su had already turned back into human form, and was sitting by Madame Pomfrey to heal his wounds. Chapter 124. Still no one can be re-elected for 2 years. In the past 32, years, neither the Magical Society nor the Muggle Society in Britain has stopped. On the Muggle side, since 1968, more than 3,000 people have been killed in violent conflicts in the United Kingdom, Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. In 1971, the British government began to implement the detention without trial policy in Northern Ireland, while prohibiting processions and demonstrations. After this policy took effect, a total of 342 people were arrested and imprisoned without trial throughout Northern Ireland. On the afternoon of January 1972, British troops opened fire on unarmed demonstrators. No weapons were found on the marchers who were killed or wounded. Moreover, many wounded were hit by armored vehicles, and most of the wounded and dead were shot from behind and behind the head. On the other side of the Magic Society, there are double-hole socket men making troubles, and wizards have been living in constant fear of wizards being tortured and killed. Some people even found that their warm home was gone after returning home from get-off work, and all that was left was the ruins of walls and walls that were smoking, the corpses of their family members, and the symbol of the Dark Lord floating in the air. That's why the Werewolf's night attack on Hogsmeade Village caused great shock in the Magical Society. Many people feared that after 10 years of stability, a new threat would come to them. When wizards picked up the Daily Prophet at breakfast time, many readers were amazed by the front-page headline of the photo of Fudge, Minister of Magic, and Dumbledore, Headmaster of Hogwarts School of Witchcraft and Wizardry, standing together in front of a burned house. I was so surprised that I forgot to eat breakfast. Fortunately for readers, no Hogwarts students or residents of Hogsmeade died or were bitten by werewolves in this incident, and only a few people were scratched by werewolves or injured by falling from broomsticks. As for the members of the werewolf army who participated in the attack, none of the survivors escaped under Dumbledore's own shot, and all of them were captured. This was the largest attack since the downfall of the two-hole socket man more than 10 years ago. For a while, all the wizards were in danger, for fear that other werewolves would follow and attack them. When it's time for afternoon tea, this week's new issue of the Youth magazine is also in the hands of readers. The Youth magazines were full of articles about the werewolf attack on the village last night. As soon as the incident was resolved last night, Percy immediately organized the members of the magazine to interview the frontline personnel, and then wrote articles overnight, typesetting and printing overnight. Seeing Percy's actions, Zhang Su approached him after bandaging the wound, and the two of them muttered for more than half an hour before they settled on the tone of this issue of the magazine. Then Zhang Su found Lu Ping in the Three Broomsticks bar. Lu Ping was sitting on the edge of a wine table, his expression kept changing, and he seemed to be having a psychological struggle. "Professor Lu Ping, let's have a drink together." Zhang Su sat opposite Lu Ping. Seeing that the proprietress of the bar was not there, Zhang Su took out 2 bottles of Wanli beer, slapped the bottle caps on the edge of the table, and after freezing them with magic, put one bottle in front of Lu Ping and the other in front of himself. Yes, bottle blow. After Zhang Su and Lu Ping took a sip of wine each, Lu Ping's expression softened a little. "Does Professor Lu Ping have any thoughts on what happened tonight?" Zhang Su asked. Lu Ping stared at the beer bottle in front of him and nodded silently. Zhang Su took out a stack of letter paper and a quill and put them on the table, then lifted the beer bottle. "Drink this bottle of wine, then use the strength of the wine to write out all your thoughts, and then give it to Percy for publication," Zhang Su said to Lu Ping, holding a beer bottle. Werewolves have always been misunderstood and discriminated against. Individual dangerous werewolves are regarded as representatives of the entire werewolf group, and all werewolves like you who are kind and don't want to hurt others have been implicated by them. Why don't you take advantage of the treatment of werewolves and the werewolf army this time, and as a werewolf who has received treatment, write down what you think in your heart and tell everyone what is the life and heart of most werewolves in the family. After hearing Zhang Su's words, Lu Ping, who had been silent all this time, sharpened his eyes. Lu Ping raised the beer bottle and touched the bottle with Zhang Su, and then the two dried up their respective beers, picked up pens and paper, and buried themselves in writing at the edge of the wine table. So on the second day, readers of the Youth magazine saw that after the article by the Minister of Magic Fudge's assurance that the Ministry of Magic would protect the people and Dumbledore's assurance that werewolves could be cured was an article titled 30 Years of Prejudice, Discrimination and Cowardice articles about the struggle. In the article, Lu Ping told readers about his personal experience. Fear of his future life after Fenrir Greyback was bitten at the age of 4 in revenge for his father. The joy of meeting 3 friends who did not dislike their werewolf status during Hogwarts. After the mysterious man fell, because he was a werewolf, He encountered various difficulties in life and work, and his mentality at that time. The excitement when I received an offer letter from Hogwarts last year as a professor of defense against the dark arts. Finally, I was the first person in Hogwarts to receive werewolf treatment and return to normal life. In the article, Lupin's unyielding character, tenacious will and optimistic attitude are vividly displayed on the paper. While helping Lupin polish the article, Zhang Su wanted to add a poignant and touching love story to Lupin, but he had to give up under Lupin's desperate opposition. Behind Lupin's article is an article written by Zhang Su titled "Hogwarts Has Such a Professor, and the Students Are Stunned." Facts taught in the most popular Defense Against the Dark Arts class. Coupled with the intentional or unintentional mention of Lupin's heroic fighting in the werewolf army battle in other articles later in the magazine, readers began to re-examine the werewolf group. Immediately afterwards, the dissidents of the Luna family followed suit, appealing in the magazine to care for the kind werewolf represented by Lupin, and distinguishing the kind werewolf from the evil werewolf represented by Earl Grey. Finally, Minister of Magic Fudge introduced a new policy, which will provide interest-free loans to werewolves who cannot afford the treatment of werewolves, and it was the Ministry of Magic, not Gringotts, who operated the money. On the second day of the new policy, letters of thanks from werewolves filled Fudge's desk. After interrogating the arrested werewolves, the reason why Fenrir Greyback led the werewolf army to attack Hogsmeade was also published in the Daily Prophet. Their motive was to prevent the werewolves from going to Hogsmeade for treatment. From the side, it proves that the current treatment for werewolves is effective. For a while, the panic caused by the werewolves attacking the village eased, and the living conditions of those werewolves who did not usually show violent tendencies improved. At this time, a piece of news shocked the Hogwarts faculty lounge. Professor Lupin had submitted his resignation to Dumbledore, and he would resign as a professor of defense against the dark arts after the end of this semester. In the faculty lounge, Lupin explained his actions to his colleagues. Although the living conditions of some werewolves have improved recently, and there are also treatments for werewolves. However, it is difficult to change the concepts that wizards have formed for a long time. The werewolf army's attack on Hogsmeade has frightened many people, and the prejudice against werewolves has become more serious. So after I discussed with several other werewolf friends, we will set up a werewolf care association. Our purpose is to improve the social influence of werewolves, provide help for werewolves seeking treatment, and help treated werewolves return to normal people life. Chapter 125 Devil Yolk Man. Because a certain professor talked to other students while eating supper in the kitchen, the students soon learned that Lupin was about to resign. Although the students including Harry felt sorry for Professor Lupin's departure, no one could stop him from helping his brothers and sisters. Over the weekend, Harry's trio, along with Black, found Lupin. Harry and the three of them all wanted Lupin to stay and continue to serve as the professor of defense against the dark arts. After all, it was hard to meet such a reliable professor in this class. After hearing Lupin's plan, Black remained silent. He was more mature than Harry and the others and could understand Lupin's thoughts. In the end, it was Black who showed his arrogance as a mob. After he went home and rummaged through the boxes, he gave Lupin the real estate certificate of a house in Hogsmeade that had been abandoned for many years. Give it to him, and their association can use this house as its headquarters. In this way, it was a happy result for Lupin, who left Hogwarts, as well as students such as Harry and Black who could often see Lupin in Hogsmeade. In the following time, Lupin was preparing for the final exam, while Zhang Su was very busy. In addition to reviewing and preparing for the final exam by himself, Zhang Su also has to prepare the final exam papers for the Muggle Studies course, as well as prepare the Muggle Studies course 0W, LS 10-year real questions, and the Muggle Studies course notes for the 5th and 7th grade students' 10 years of real questions. In the last Muggle Studies class of the semester, Zhang Su finally gave the students the key points. What I have said is the key points. The students in the seats almost drew out their ones to fight him desperately. Exam week finally arrived. During the Transfiguration exam, Zhang Su turned the teapot into a money turtle, and Professor McGonagall nodded coldly. During the Charms exam, Zhang Su's happy spell made his partner Anthony Goldstein smile like a flower. 10 minutes later, Zhang Su, who did not take any precautions, received an enhanced version of the happiness spell from Anthony Goldstein, and then walked out of the examination room singing "We people, I am so happy tonight." Zhang Su also successfully passed the examinations of History of Magic, Potions, Herbal Medicine and Ancient Runes. During the Defense Against the Dark Arts exam, The exams designed by Professor Lupin to clear the customs and fight monsters made the candidates feel very fresh. The first level must be waded through a pond with the Grindylow, the second level through a pothole full of red hats, and the third level through a swamp with a shinkpunk that will give false directions. Well, the bottom boss is to climb into an old box and fight a new boggart. It's just that when Zhang Su dealt with a boggart in the end, there was a lot of noise, which made Lupin very curious about what the boggart would conjure up in front of Zhang Su. Zhang Su had obviously used occlumency on himself in class before. The boggart failed to see the fear in him. After the exam, as usual, there's a week off to wait for the results. While other students were herding sheep, Zhang Su forced himself to lock himself in the dormitory to review for the coming senior high school entrance examination after returning to China. Just the day before the final dinner, Zhang Su, who had finally completed the 3-year simulation of the 5-year senior high school entrance examination, brought a bewildered Harry to Dumbledore's office. After 3 years of contact, Zhang Su felt that Dumbledore was a good old man. Whether it was for Zhang Su himself or for Zhang Su's various small actions, he had a happy cooperation with Zhang Su, so Zhang Su finally decided to help him and push some things forward. After all, Dumbledore's death 3 years later is a huge loss to the wizarding world all over the world. In Dumbledore's office, Harry was sitting at the desk with a cup of tea and a daze. Zhang Su sat beside him drinking tea and eating snacks, while Dumbledore kept a dark face, carefully observing the tattered diary on desk, Ravenclaw item and Marvaligan's ring. Dumbledore observed carefully for more than half an hour before raising his head, frowning and casting a questioning look at Zhang Su. "They're all Horcruxes," Zhang Su said to Dumbledore with a serious face. "Ravenclaw's diadem was found by accident in the room of requirement in my first year, and Marvolo Gunter's ring was found by Professor Scarlet in Gaunt's old house. After I discovered Ravenclaw's crown, I felt that there was a soul in it, and this soul has been trying to influence people who come into contact with it. At first I brought it back to China, and I wanted to ask a senior to let it go inside. His soul passed away peacefully, but that senior told me that the soul inside is not an undead, it is the same as the soul of a living person. After I learned about Riddle's diary last year, I found it to be the same as the crown. So this year I asked the Dementors for help, and the Dementors were able to confirm that there was a living and powerful soul inside the crown. Then I let the Dementors eat that soul." After listening to Zhang Su's narration, Harry Potter was stunned, while Dumbledore leaned back on his chair and thought about something. "What is a Horcrux?" Harry asked Zhang Su. "A Horcrux is an object that houses part of a person's soul. Hide part of it in some object outside the body. This way, even if your body is attacked or destroyed, you cannot die because part of the soul remains. The world is unharmed," Zhang Su said to Harry. "But, Zhang, at what cost?" Harry asked. "The lives of others," Zhang Su replied. Harry looked at the 3 Horcruxes on the table in horror. "That is to say, that means Voldemort killed at least 3 people in order to make Horcruxes," Zhang Su said. "If Tom is to be finally eliminated, the other Horcruxes must be eliminated first." Dumbledore said, "He probably has more than these Horcruxes. The Horcruxes he made are traceable. I don't think he will use cheap things as the carrier of Horcruxes at random. This is not in line with his identity." Zhang Su picked up Ravenclaw's crown and said, the things that he thinks can match his identity are likely to be relics handed down by the 4 founders of Hogwarts. If you follow this clue to search, you may gain something." Dumbledore thought for a while, then nodded. Then Dumbledore looked at the cabinet where Gryffindor's great sword was kept, and then at Marvoligan's ring on the table. Seeing this, Zhang Su immediately took the ring away. "Professor, I think you can also see the curse on the ring. If you destroy it rashly, I think it will cause irreversible damage even to you. Or I'll take it to the Dementors, it's better to hurt them than you." Dumbledore and Harry looked at Zhang Su speechlessly. "Do you have any conscience for cheating the Dementors?" "The next thing is the most important thing," Zhang Su said with a serious face. Seeing Zhang Su's change of expression, Dumbledore and Harry also became serious. "I have to admire Professor LeMay's students. Boxbutton's alchemy level is much higher than ours at Hogwarts." Zhang Su took out a Horcrux detector and said, "This is a friend I invited. Boxbutton made a Horcrux detector that can detect nearby Horcruxes." Looking at Zhang Su's Horcrux detector on the table, Harry looked dazed, while Dumbledore stood up in surprise. In the Horcrux detector, a red arrow pointed to the ring of Marvoligan held in Zhang Su's left hand, and the other arrow pointed directly at Harry Potter. Zhang Su took out his magic wand and turned the last piece of dim sum on the plate in front of him into a double yolk egg omelette. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.